What's going on, fellow A Plusers? It's your boy Adam Perez. We are back once again with a brand new live episode of A Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news streaming live for you guys here today. We got 6 incredible topics we're going to be diving into. As we're going to dive into some DCU lanterns, as some talks about the script have in fact begin to emerge. We're also going to be diving into Daredevil Born Again a little bit as the showrunner continues to discuss the show as we get closer to its debut in March. We also got some Super Bowl trailers that are going to be dropping here next week and a ton more to certainly talk about, guys. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and we'll see you on the other side. Heyo, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Adam Perez. We are back once again with another live episode of A Plus Hero Report this weekend, finishing off your weekend strong, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just myself, but my co-host, as always, Stuart Branscombe, coming through today. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man. I missed you last week.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back this week. Sorry I couldn't make it. But yeah, I got some not only the topics that we have for our main ones, but I got like an interesting honorable mention. So it's gonna be a good hero report, I think.
I'm looking forward to, man. I'm looking to hearing what you got to say. Yeah, last week, I had somebody scheduled to watch my little boy for me yesterday, or last Sunday, but they came down with the flu, and even though my boy certainly was feeling good at the time and already had his flu shot, I wasn't about to test it, to certainly say the least. So had to go ahead and go a little bit longer. I know sometimes the evening shifts for Hero Report are a little bit more difficult for you, but I appreciate you coming through today, man. Yeah, we got some incredible topics. Looking forward to talking about everything here with you guys, because we got a lot of great stuff that's happening right now. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man has officially dropped. We got the first 2 episodes on Disney Plus. I did go ahead and do a review for it if you guys want to go ahead and certainly check that out. We got Captain America Brave New World dropping in less than 2 weeks here, and then we got more MCU stuff with Daredevil Born Again in March. Good time to be a nerd right now, Stuart.
Definitely. I did not realize it was that close to for Captain America, so I'm hella excited.
Yeah, it's sneaking up on us really quick here, man, for sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this year is going to kick off when it comes to superhero content, to certainly say the least. But it's good to have everybody here. Thank you guys so much for certainly joining us. We got the Super Bowl next week. We'll talk a little bit about that also. Yeah, man, and a ton of other great things for you guys today. We got a couple honorable mentions, but before we do, we'd love to go ahead and talk with you guys, see how you guys are certainly doing this morning before we get into our topics. Remember, at the end of the day, these are simply our A+ opinions. We always want to know yours. So as we go through these topics, feel free to share your thoughts in the live chat or the comments after this video airs, and give us somebody to converse with and go back and forth and have some great discussions throughout today's episode. So let's give some shout outs to people that are joining us live here today. Hey, Adam, just saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on digital last Tuesday. It was amazing. I still haven't seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2, so I definitely have not seen Sonic the Hedgehog 3 yet. But the one clip that I continue to see is Dr. Robotnik and his father doing their dance. I don't know if you've seen that clip all over the place. I've been seeing people put different songs to it, and it's pretty amazing how well it matches up.
Yeah, I've seen people also like recreating the dance on TikTok and
really
doing a pretty good job of it also.
I need to change my TikTok algorithm, that's for sure. I need more nerd stuff. I need more nerd stuff on my algorithm, so I have to check that one out. Saw the trailer for tickets on sale for Captain America Brave New World online. Yeah, man, if you haven't had a chance, get your tickets now. It's gonna be here rather soon. Super Bowl is almost here, and movie trailers or studios might be releasing during the game. Yeah, we're going to be talking about some Super Bowl trailer releases. I also saw the first 2 episodes of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and it was amazing. Can't wait for the next 2 episodes this week. Actually, I think we're getting 3 episodes this week. They're going to be dropping 3, 4, and 5.
Ooh,
so yeah, we're getting 3 episodes this upcoming week. Stuart, did you check out the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
I did.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
So far, I like it. I wouldn't say I love it yet, but
Right.
I think that right now is the show is stretching its legs. I guess you could say. Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. It's just hopefully the show can keep me intrigued as it keeps going.
Yeah, I certainly enjoyed it for what it was. I had a really good time with 2 episodes. Great intro, to certainly say the least, to bring us into this world. Again, this is our thumbnail for our episodes 1 and 2 review. If you want to go ahead and check it out, it is currently on our YouTube channel right now. But yeah, I will say I am having fun with this MCU alternate. I really am fans of the supporting characters. And I do love how they've kind of flipped. I don't want to say the stereotypes per se, but I do love how they have flipped the script for Peter Parker's life in a sense of he's actually got some friends. Like he's not necessarily bullied by the people in high school. Like it's a nice breath of fresh air, if you will, in regards to it. It's just interesting. Like the bullies come from the sense of his coworkers, or there's people in his internship a little bit more than his actual high school friends. So I kind of dig it. I kind of dig it.
Yeah, I definitely loved some of the banter that they had when he was at work. The two things that like definitely stuck out the most was, of course, no one believing him when he's like, "Oh yeah, Norman wanted me to go meet him in his office," and everyone being like, "Oh, Peter's got jokes." And then the other thing, of course, was the part where he has to go to rescue people from the burning building, and
Oh
he's
yeah.
like watching it play on the news. He's like, "Oh, I just like watching videos of buildings burning," and just the response of that is a major red flag.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the humor in here is really great. I was a really big fan of it, especially like the part where the guy's burning down the house, the building, and he says he's trying to make the condo on 52nd Street, and Spidey's got to remind him like you're actually on 51st Street. Like you picked the wrong building. It's really great humor in the show. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Enrique says the upcoming new animated Smurfs movies might get its first trailer this week on February 8th. The Smurf, interesting. I didn't even know there was a Smurfs movie. I'm sure Enrique's probably brought it up to us before, but I haven't followed the Smurfs in a minute.
I'm just glad they're sticking to animation this time.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Good to see you in the house as always. Ram Jam certainly coming through, man. Thank you so much, Ram Jam. He also says I've been watching a new anime on Crunchyroll called The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventurer in Another World. I haven't heard of that one. I wonder if have you heard of that, Stuart? I wonder if Indy's heard of that.
I think that's the one I've been seeing where it looks Super Sentai inspired, but specifically it's a Red Ranger, and he looks
Oh,
I don't know. It's like he looks kind of like the Red Ranger from Mystic Force. But yeah, I don't know anything about it. But it is kind of cool. This is the second anime that's come out that's kind of like Super Sentai inspired. The other one being kind of like imagine like Power Rangers, but the boys, because it's
oh,
where it turns out like their villain of the week that they do in this anime is like staged. So like they basically pay like the bad guys to constantly attack the city, and so they basically stop them to look like heroes every week. But it's a really interesting premise. It's
okay.
actually great. I never finished it, but I got like 4 or 5 episodes in, and I was pretty hooked. And I think, yeah, like the best way to describe it is Power Rangers meets the boys.
I dig the sound of it. I dig the sound of it. I'm gonna have to check it out. We also have Derpy. What's up, Derpy? Derpy Entertainment coming through. He says, I'm here for the quality t-shirt content Adam is wearing today. Ah, yes. Yes, my Superman shirt came through. It says take me home, I think, at the bottom.
Oh, that's
Yeah, take me
cool.
home. But yeah, I picked it up from the DC shop. If you guys are interested, I'm not sponsored by DC or anything like that, but I am in my Superman phase right now. But yeah, I've always wanted another Superman shirt. I was actually looking for. There was one that was released during San Diego Comic-Con, I think it was last year. I think this was San Diego Comic-Con last year. They had a movie style logo where it was the red, blue, and yellow traditional logo, and it had like this really cool flare or like shine behind it that I really wanted to get, but it was sold out immediately, like everywhere that I looked. And now I can't find it on the DC shop anymore. I just find the traditional matte sort of finish traditional Superman shirt for the movie itself, but that's not the one that I wanted. I want the movie shine one. So I couldn't find it. So this is the one that I settled on because I really was a big fan of this shirt too. But I am still going to be looking for that other Superman shirt if I could find it anywhere. But I can't find it on the DC shop. I think I'm gonna have to like eBay it for like a lot of money or Etsy it somewhere. Somebody's selling it out there. But I also have a Creature Commandos t-shirt that I've worn a couple times too that I got from DC shop. I felt like I was this excited for the MCU back in the day. Like I had a lot of MCU shirts when they first started out, especially like I had like maybe one or two Captain America Winter Soldier shirts. Whenever we would go to like the midnight premieres, I would always get one of the exclusive shirts that they were selling at like AMC or something like that, or Cinemark. So I feel like I have that level of excitement of the DCU right now that I did of early phases of MCU, if that makes any sense.
I am right there with you. Yeah, and I think that, Creature Commandos was that perfect appetizer. It's like, okay, I've had that appetizer. I'm now ready for July. I'm ready for the main course, which is, of course, Superman.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. It will be here in July, so what, five months from now.
Yeah.
We got
And then I just realized because Peacemaker comes out the next month, Peacemaker is like the dessert. So Creature Commandos the appetizer, Superman is the entree, Creature Commandos the dessert.
it's really coming out in August.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know it was that close of a release. Nice. I'm excited for that. Ram Jim says I got a chance to watch episode 0 of number 1 Sentai Goes User. Have you guys had the chance to see it? I have not. I didn't know it was released. I mean, I figured it was this weekend. I didn't know it had already been released yet, so I'm gonna have to check that one out. But how long is it? If anything, I do have my site that I usually go to for my Super Sentai shows, so I'm gonna have to check it out. But I didn't know episode 0 was available already.
And then episode zeros are usually like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, I think the last episode 10 I remember was Kara Major. They might have had some other ones since then, but yeah, I don't think they're very long. 10-15 minutes. Yeah, maybe not even 15 minutes. Blossom says that person you're talking about who watches building burns. Holy macaroni, that sounds cray-cray. Yeah, that's Peter Parker's excuse. He sees a news bulletin and it catches his eye, and as Spider-Man, he's always kind of curious as to what's going on. So he they're playing it and they get ready to change the channel. He tells them to turn it back, and they're like, "Why do you want to watch that, Peter?" And he has to come up with some sort of excuse. And so his excuse is that he loves to watch buildings burn. Hey, we got dual stewards here. Here, let me stay here. Hold on.
Okay,
I got you.
There you go. Cool. That was weird. I don't know why. Now I have a second screen on here. I wonder if I can get rid of it.
Are you a skinwalker, Stuart?
I guess
Are
so.
you a clone? Should I be worried right now?
I'm the well, did you see the Star Trek Section 31 movie? I'm actually the evil steward from the mirror dimension. Hail to the Terran Empire.
I have not seen that, but tell me, what'd you think of it?
Oh, not good, unfortunately. Wanted to like it. I was actually I think like the first thing was like when the trailers came out, I was actually kind of excited by the fact that it didn't look anything like Star Trek. And so that was actually the number one thing I was excited about with it. And watching it, yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like Star Trek, but that didn't excite me as much as I wanted it to, only because like just as a movie itself, it wasn't very good. It felt less like a movie and more like just a pilot for a show that I don't think it's ever going to, happen.
I get that. Yeah, I got pilot vibes from it too when I watched. Well, I haven't watched the movie, but just from the trailers, it was just odd. I am curious to hear Will's take on it. I think Will and Sarah did a episode of Scene and Nerd a couple maybe last week or so, where they talked about it. Or at least Will, I think, probably did on his Scene and Nerd podcast and YouTube channel. So if you are interested in sorry, my girlfriend's leaving with Little Man. If you are interested in checking out Section 31 review, go ahead and check out Scene and Nerds podcast for sure.
I definitely am curious. The big thing too is that like, so there's a YouTube channel I watch called Trek Culture. They're, offshoot of What Culture. And they're usually like the most positive YouTube channel when it comes to Star Trek, content out there. Yeah, even you could clearly tell did not like this movie. So I'm definitely curious to hear Will's thoughts.
Yeah, that's brutal. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into our first segment of the day. We're going to get into some honorable mentions. For those of you who are not familiar with the show, honorable mentions are really topics that we felt you certainly still deserve to know about, but didn't quite make our top 6 topics to talk about here today. Um, let's get into it real quick. Marcelino says, Jesse Gender, who is a huge Star Trek fan and loves nearly everything Star Trek, has openly called it corporate slop.
Oh, I would definitely agree with that. It definitely felt like a movie that was made because the studio was like, "Hey, wasn't Michelle Yeoh in Star Trek? Let's give her her own movie because she sells tickets." And then they just decided not to release it in theaters.
Man, that's terrible. All right, let's get into some honorable mentions. Stuart, did you want to kick us off with something you want to talk about?
Yeah, so something really weird that I found out about, and okay, so like I don't think like DC is stressed about this because they're not like there's not a lot of detail about this lawsuit. It sounds like it may honestly just go nowhere, but DC is currently being sued over Superman. I guess the current estate that owns Superman is trying to claim that they don't have the rights to air the movie in certain countries, and so they're currently trying to sue DC and stop them from airing the Superman movie in some countries, some selected countries. It's so weird because I have actually tried to look into it, and the information about why they're doing this and as to like the details of the lawsuit are still not very well known. Mostly because it's all secondhand information. The only thing we do know is that the estate is trying to sue DC and stop them from airing in some countries. Don't know what their motive behind the lawsuit is, and I also don't know like if it's legit or not.
That sounds there's a part of me that says that I saw something in there too where they've tried to do this also for Man of Steel and were unsuccessful, or like
Oh.
another Superman movie too. At first, when I saw it, I was like, "Is this Snyder Bros? Is this Snyder Bros?" This is what I thought at first. But then I thought I read somewhere else too that they had tried to do this similar thing for Man of Steel and it fell through. I could be wrong, but I thought or maybe it was another Superman movie, but I heard they tried to do this before.
That would have been funny though if it turned out that the current estate for Superman, they were just Snyder Bros, and that was why.
Yeah, man. We'll see how that one turns out for sure.
Definitely.
This is not in our honorable mentions here today. I forgot to even post this on our Facebook page. Marcelino says also Scream 7 has brought back several past actors, which I wish they never announced it and kept it secret until the movie release. Do you know who they announced this week, Stuart?
I'm gonna try to avoid looking that up then if it
Oh, okay,
because it
never mind.
sounds
Then I want
just because it sounds like spoilers. I'm wondering, does that mean they brought back some people who might or may not be dead? And
yeah, I
specifically,
won't spoil
yeah.
anything. I
Because
won't
I know
spoil
that the
anything.
big fan theory is that why do I always forget that actor's name? But Shaggy from the James Gunn Scooby Doo movie. I'm just gonna refer to him as Shaggy. The big rumor that this has been a rumor since Scream 3 is that he's gonna be the killer because the idea is we saw a TV drop on his head, but we never saw like officially like a body bag, so he could still be alive. That's the fun theory that a lot of fans had. They
Well, we
even
won't.
poked fun of it in Scream 6. They were like, "Oh, that's only if you believe he's dead."
Oh, okay. Yeah, we won't talk about we won't talk about the Scream 7 news then.
Okay.
What other honorable mentions we got here for sure? Let's see. Let me see. Oh, we got some new images from Fear Street Prom Queen. They got a new Fear Street movie that's set to go ahead and drop. I think they made a release date too. I'm trying to find the release date on this here. Um, it just says this summer. So there's no official release date as of yet, but they did drop some brand new first look images for the upcoming Netflix film Fear Street. This will actually be Fear Street's 4th Netflix film.
Are the
But
Fear Street movies any good?
I like the trilogy. Yeah, they came out as a trilogy. All connected, one taking place during present day, and then the last two, I believe, were like period pieces taking place in different time periods, but they all managed to connect and kind of come back to present day. But it really worked for me. I had a really good time. The second one was one of my favorites. I think that really highlighted Sadie West, the redheaded girl from Stranger Things. She
Ooh.
plays Max. I thought she was really great in it, and I hope she has a really great career kind of going forward. But I was actually surprisingly a fan of Fear Street. I don't feel like they dumbed it down at all. I don't feel like they held back in regards to violence. It felt like a traditional like slasher film, but it worked for me. It worked for me.
I do love me some slasher films, so I'll definitely have to check them out.
Yeah, so check it out. Coming 2025, it will be dropping this summer. What else do we have? Toxic Avenger is back in the news.
Oh my gosh, this excites me because it's like this movie was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, I want to say, and they
Yep.
just stopped talking about it. Like it premiered once at Fantastic Fest, and then the movie was just like never talked about. So I thought it was scrapped for like tax purposes or something.
Yep. It is finally getting a wide release. Deadline.com exclusively reported Cineverse has set up a 2025 release date. The reboot will premiere as an unrated wide release August 29th, kicking off Labor Day weekend. So August 29th.
I wonder if that's what made it take so long, is if they had to like fight the MPA. Are they the ones who rate movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they had to fight with them, because I know that was always like with the old school Troma Productions. That was kind of the main thing that why Lloyd Kaufman founded Troma, the production company behind the original Toxic Avenger, was so he could avoid the MPA and just release like home video movies.
That makes sense. Yeah, when they said unrated, I was like, "Ooh, we're really getting into our trauma bag for sure." Like they're not playing around here, I don't think. Um, we also got Knives Out is back in the news. We got ourselves a brand new image here release of Daniel Craig as Detective LeBlanc.
Oh,
Detective Blanc. What's his name again?
yeah, that was correct. I'm just
Oh,
very intrigued by his new hair.
hairstyle. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's growing it out for sure. This is set for fall of 2025. Netflix hasn't given a release date, but they did say fall of 2025. This has the makings of like a Thanksgiving release, weekend release to me, Stuart.
I think this one, the first one, came out.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think this might get a theatrical release too. I'm hoping so. I really want to see it in theaters again, but I
Well,
don't know. I haven't heard a thing.
with how much money they're putting into this, I really think they should, because I think we talked about on the show,
It's
this
like
movie's
200
budget is
something.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's massive. I'm kind of surprised about it too. We also got our final Cobra Kai poster here. Final season, final episodes, February 13th, Stuart. So Captain America weekend, that Valentine's Day, final episodes, February 13th. I do believe we're going to get ourselves a final trailer either Monday or Tuesday of this week. I think they made that announcement. So I do believe we're going to get the final episodes trailer here. But yeah, this is the final poster. How are you feeling, Stuart?
I'm excited, man. Things really hit the fan during the last episode. I think this last season has definitely been the craziest, and that's really saying a lot given how far they went with season 5. So, I'm having a blast. This has just been a great ride, and I'm kind of happy the show is ending, though, because it's just every season. It's like it's almost becoming the Fast and Furious movies, where it's like every season they're really trying to one up the craziness of the previous season. And so I'm glad they are now ending it before it goes too over the top. They're keeping it as just over the top enough. I think that's the perfect way to end it.
Yeah, me and the girlfriend watched the last two or three episodes of season 5 to get ourselves ready. We've been waiting for all the episodes to drop so we can go ahead and binge the final season. So yeah, February 13th can't come soon enough. And then last but not least, for honorable mentions, I wanted to highlight this because Benedict Cumberbatch is back in the news here this week. We talked a little bit about him last week. There was an article where he mentioned that he was not going to be in Doctor Doom or Avengers Doomsday. He said, "I'll be heavily in Secret Wars, but I won't be in Avengers Doomsday," and that caught us by storm. So we talked a little bit about it last week. But Benedict Cumberbatch this week is back to correct his mistake. He spoke with Business Insider. As it turns out, Strange is so central to the multiverse spanning saga that he will indeed appear in both Doomsday and Secret Wars. Cumberbatch reconfirmed his involvement in a new interview with Business Insider, saying, "I got that wrong. I am in the next one." That's his quote. "I got that wrong. I am in the next one." However, Cumberbatch qualified his statement by adding, "Don't ever believe anything I say," after saying that. So, yeah.
I wonder if like he thought he wasn't allowed to say that he was in Avengers Doomsday because of like spoiler reasons or something. Like I guess maybe his part in Doomsday is like meant to be like small but important. So I could see him thinking that like, ooh, I probably shouldn't say anything just in case. And then the next week they got Marvel gave him the go ahead and they were like, no, let people know. We want people to see Doomsday. Tell people you're in it.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight that real quick because we had a little legit. It was one of our topics yesterday, so I didn't want people to continue to go on thinking Benedict wasn't going in there. So I wanted to make a correction to our story that we talked about last week. But yes, he did state, "I got that wrong. I will be in Avengers Doomsday." But you might be right, Stuart. Maybe it's a case of his role isn't relatively huge. But who knows? Because I did find it odd that he wasn't going to be in there. I was assuming maybe he would be like a post-credit scene where he'd like come out at the very end all battered and battle worn and beaten up and stuff, like, "I need your help, guys, like it's the end of the world," and then we jump into Secret Wars or some shit like that. But who knows? I would assume, if anything, Doomsday has got to end on a big climactic scale to that of which Infinity War did, to lead us into Secret Wars. Like an incursion is literally about to happen with our world. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, something really big. Something I also kind of wouldn't mind seeing too is like if we're gonna have Benedict Cumberbatch or just any of the older Avengers in this movie at all, I would love to see them being like, okay, we got to stop Doctor Doom at all costs. But then the moment they see his face, and they see Robert Downey Jr., maybe we could just convince him not to be evil.
yeah. Oh, and Marceline did bring this up too. I was going to mention this. Thank you so much. Chris Evans has also stated he won't be returning for Avengers Doomsday and is happily retired. He did mention that there was an Esquire interview for Anthony Mackie talking about Captain America Thor, and they also interviewed Chris Evans during that, which Chris Evans did come out and say, I will not be returning Avengers Doomsday. You can't believe everything that you hear. I am happily retired. So I mean, I wonder if he was happily retired before Deadpool and Wolverine when he showed back up, or if he's now happily retired. I don't know, Chris. I don't know, my guy. I don't know.
That is the best part about these type of interviews, is that if someone says they're not in the movie, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, Marcia said, I think people think that Marvel is telling their actors conflicting stories so the audience doesn't know what is going on. I think that's a possibility for sure. I really, really do. Because Chris said this, and I'm like, are you Andrew Garfielding me right now? Like, come on. So we'll see.
It's how I feel now. Anytime an actor says they're, or even when an actor like Harrison Ford says they don't know anything about the movie, like he's like, what's a Red Hulk? You can't even believe that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's hard. You can't believe these actors anymore. But I guess they're actors for a reason, right?
Oh yeah.
But that will do it for all of our honorable mentions here today, y'all. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to submit your live viewer questions over, you still can. There's definitely time. Go over to our YouTube channel. Click on that community tab. There is a post for live viewer questions if you guys want to go ahead and submit them over. And then we'll get to them towards the end of the show. But thank you everybody for certainly joining us here today. And look, if you're watching us live, wherever you're watching us live from, do us a big favor, man. Hit that like button. The like button really does go a long way in helping our algorithm, helping out our reach. And then if you want to share these videos, pull clips, use highlights from these episodes, certainly please go ahead and do so, man. Let people know A+ Hero Report is live, baby. But Stuart, are you ready to get into these main topics with me, man?
always.
Let's do it. We're going to be diving into our main topics. We got 6 incredible ones we're going to be discussing with you guys here today. We may even be sitting back and relaxing to watch the Sinners trailer once again. So I'm looking forward to that. But we got a lot of topics we're going to dive into. Well, one of them being Lanterns, as you can see here as our main one, to certainly say the least, as Lanterns is in fact back in the news. I'm loving these AI images of our stars as characters, man. I really am. Like, when I'm looking for like fan art or something like that, this is really what I've been like falling back on, because I've been really enjoying a lot of the AI images. It always feels very, very spot on, if you will. Don't get me wrong, I'm still supporting fan art. But sometimes these AIs just look absolutely incredible. Yeah, man, as we got our 2 stars here, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, set to go ahead and be in their own Lantern series. And we got some news, Stuart. You know, one of the things that we've been talking about the most here is how grounded is Lantern certainly going to be. You know, when you think of Green Lanterns, you think of cosmic adventures, if you will, space operas, big intergalactic sort of battles, power sets being used, willpower, fear, you know, whatever the case may be, sort of thing. So to hear some of the past interviews from James Gunn and other people talking about how grounded this is, but also what the levels of what some of the cosmic aspects of it certainly might be, really has people still scratching their head trying to figure out what exactly is this show going to be. It's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to it so much, to kind of find out for myself. But this week, Stuart, we had some really interesting quotes from one of the upcoming actors that's going to be in Green Lanterns. And I thought it'd be worth certainly checking out here. So before we do, though, I wanted to bring up, it is important to realize that camera tests for the Lantern series has officially begun. Camera tests, for people who are not familiar, really gives the director and the people on stage, cinematographers, and them, the opportunity to kind of see what these characters are going to look like in different lighting and different settings, to go ahead and get sort of their cameras ready when filming begins. They had a really great behind the scenes featurette for the Batman when Matt Reeves was doing the camera tests for the Batman. But the camera tests are really to go ahead and test out different lenses, the lighting especially, and camera settings. So if anything, I would assume you've got the actors that are on stage and what they're probably going to be wearing on set or on the television show. So I'm pretty sure Kyle Chandler, Aaron Pierre are probably rocking their costumes right now, probably also rocking their civilian clothes. Same thing with their characters, also the supporting characters and stuff, getting in front of cameras as filming is in fact set to begin this month. So filming is about to begin, man. We got Supergirl that's currently filming, and now Green Lantern is about to be in production in about 2 weeks or so. But let's get into, Stuart, this quote here to get our excitement even more for this Lantern series. This one comes to us from Collider.com. One of the actors says, "It's the best sci-fi script I've ever read."
Damn, that is a bold claim.
Yeah, that's bold. Lantern Star reveals when DC series begins shooting. This is an exclusive report from them here. Collider's Weinstraub caught up with the actress Poorna Jagannathan. I'm probably butchering her name. I apologize about this. At Sundance, where the actress is promoting her Hulu series Deli Boys. The conversation took a quick detour to Lanterns, the HBO production from Lost and Watchmen creator Damon Lindelof, along with Tom King and showrunner Chris Mundy. The series, part of DC Studio Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters slate, will star Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre-Paul. Porna will be playing a key supporting role alongside Garrett Dillahunt and Kelly MacDonald as the no-nonsense sheriff of a town that is suddenly awash with superpowered beings. Imagine the paperwork, it says. Described as a detective story in the vein of True Detective, the show will follow the Green Lanterns as they investigate a dark earthbound mystery that ties into larger intergalactic stakes. So it says, when asked about the project, she didn't hold back. She says, "This is the first script that I've read that I understand why there's an NDA." She's
Oh, okay.
She says, "Everything is so insane. It's the best writing that I've ever read." Strong words for a series still in pre-production, but she went on to explain how the script makes a traditional dense genre feel accessible. She said, "I don't know anything about sci-fi, and I don't care actually." She says, "But this script makes sci-fi seem like my world. It makes it so accessible to me. I understand everything about this world, even though I don't understand this world. So it's the best sci-fi script I've ever read. And as for when production gets underway, we start Tuesday. We start camera testing Tuesday." So they have officially begun. This was this past Tuesday. So they begin camera testing. And so, yeah, and then it says earlier this week, they also announced additional casting. This is the one that you missed last week. Ulrich Thompson playing Sinestro in the upcoming movie. But yeah, filming will in fact begin here in at least about 2 weeks or so. So big word, Stuart. We got a little bit more insight in regards to the series itself, that there's a no-nonsense sheriff in the town that is awash with superpowered beings. And she says, "Everything is so insane. It's the best writing that I've ever read. It's the first script that I've read that I understand why there's an NDA." And says that really the aspect of the sci-fi elements in here seem very accessible to people that may not necessarily be sci-fi fans, but very easy to understand. I definitely want to pick your brain here and see what you think about all this, man. What are your initial thoughts?
Okay, a couple of things. So I think the biggest thing that pops up is her basically kind of like saying she knows nothing about this world, and yet the script, just engaging her that much that she feels like she knows everything she needs to know. Which it kind of goes back to what James Gunn has been saying about how they wants every project to kind of stand on its own as his own individual thing. So even though it's part of this fantasy world, you shouldn't have to walk into any DC project and be like, wait, what the heck is going on? Did I need to watch The Flash, Wonder Woman, and Blue Beetle to know what's happening in this movie that has nothing to do with either of them? So it's good to know that, James Gunn seems to be sticking to his word of that, judging by what the actors are saying. But then the other thing too, because it seems like it's coming from someone who's not like a comic book fan, and she's saying that she understands why she had to sign an NDA for this movie. It makes me think that there's going to be some really big twists and turns in this show that don't necessarily relate to comic book Easter eggs, but are big twists and turns that are just, essential for the show itself, if that makes sense. So those are the two big things that stick out to me with what she's been talking about with the show. And yeah, like her calling it one of the best written sci-fi she's ever seen, or one of the best written sci-fi things that she's ever read. Bold, very bold, and definitely gets me really excited to see if the show can live up to that.
Yeah, I will agree. Very bold statements, to certainly say the least. I mean, what does fascinate me is that she does say, outside of the best script, but this script makes it seem like my world, or so it's the best sci-fi script that I've ever read. I think the fact that she says it is the best writing that I have ever read, for me, that's really what stands out almost even more. Is that even without necessarily the sci-fi elements involved, the fact that she really boasts about the level of writing for this script really just kind of reaffirms everything that I feel like I've heard about this show so far, especially when James Gunn talks about it. I mean, granted, look, I don't expect the showrunners or the actors to be like, "Oh yeah, we're starring in a POS. Like, this script is terrible." Like, but to go out of your way to say that it's one of the best written scripts that you have ever read, and then you combine and take a step back and look at who's actually involved with this. Damon Lindelof, who was fresh off of Watchmen, which was an incredible show, which I think might have gotten nominated for an Emmy under his watch, if I'm not mistaken. Chris Mundy from Ozark. Ozark got nominated for a few Emmys as well and was like talk of the town for a really long time. Tom King, an acclaimed comic book writer that people absolutely love whenever he drops brand new stuff. I mean, we have three juggernauts of writers kind of coming together to go ahead and put this together. And so, like, hyperbole aside, I believe it when I see exactly who's working on it. And even when you have somebody like James Gunn, who's blown away about saying things like, when I read the script, things that shouldn't work so incredibly well. Like, I have no idea how they made this work, but it's a fantastic show. When he says something like that, I take notice. And so the fact that she says, aside from it being one of the best sci-fi scripts that she's ever read, because if she's not a big sci-fi fan, then I'm like, okay, well, how much do you really know about sci-fi in regards to that, right? But when she takes a step back and says it's one of the best written scripts that she's ever read, I completely believe her in that regard. So I'm really excited to go ahead and dive into this world even more. And I think for me too, just that brief sentence about describing who some of the characters are, the no nonsense sheriff who is now in the town that is awash and suddenly populated by superpowered beings. I when I think of something like that, for some reason, I don't know why my head goes to like Supergirl, where their city had to like acclimate to metahumans, and the concept of you walking into the city and there might be like a metahuman bar somewhere. Like I could literally see Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart walking in True Detective style and like shaking down a metahuman bar or someplace in the small little town somewhere, sort of thing. But I do think it also adds to what the political stakes, or like what this world is kind of going through, right? Like, it seems as though these superpower beings are almost unwanted, or like they kind of come into this world and now they're kind of running amok in this town, sort of thing, or weird things are now starting to happen now that there are superpowered beings in this world. And so it does add that flavor of what's the world of the DCU certainly like. Are there people that hate that there are these metahumans and superpower beings in there, right? Like, is this like their anti-immigration, like social sort of issue that they tackle kind of in this show, sort of thing, right? Like, are there echoes of our real world in this show in some sense? And when you think of things that Damon Lindelof has worked on, like Watchmen, it really wouldn't surprise me. And so I really do think that this, just from a standpoint of establishing the DCU world, how people feel about maybe there being more superheroes or metahumans or superpower beings than people probably feel comfortable with. What is that? Like, what is that? How does that set up this DCU world, and how do Hal and John sort of navigate it to not only solve this mystery but maybe get some of the answers that they need in order to kind of solve the bigger scope of what this mystery is? So there's I just feel like there's a lot of great content to really sink our teeth into, just from these two little tidbits of information that we wind up getting in this interview here. So I'm really excited for this, Stuart. I really am.
100%. Yeah, it sounds like, they might be doing kind of, the typical social commentary where it's like, you have the discrimination against metahumans, and it's clearly meant to, kind of like what you were saying, kind of satirize real world social issues as well. So curious how that, because like I could see something like that being played over the top for laughs in a show like Peacemaker, but then in a show like Lanterns, I could see them taking a more grounded, serious approach to that kind of type of aspect of it. So I'm curious to see how that gets integrated within the show.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by this, man. But I do think that they got something special on their hands here. I am hoping, look, similar to how we saw David Cordon-Sweat reveals, getting ourselves a first look. I really hope that I'm keeping my fingers crossed that even before we get to July here, that we've got first looks at not only Millie Alcock as Supergirl, but hopefully some first look images at our boys in their lantern costumes in some way. There's a part of me that thinks maybe we'll see them almost in civilian clothing first before we see them in their Green Lantern Corps outfits. What do you think if they had to reveal first look images, Stuart, for lanterns? What do you think we get first? Them in civilian clothes or their actual costumes?
I think we're gonna get leaked photos, and those will be their civilian clothes first. But I think the first set photos will be their costumes, or the first like official photos that they want released will be their costumes.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll see. A part of me was thinking to myself they would release some civilian official first, because if they want to push the idea of this being grounded, you might want to go with that element. But to really satisfy the comic book boys, like or the comic heads, a Green Lantern outfit reveal would be pretty stellar. What do you think about when she says this is the first script that I've read that I understand why there's an NDA? What do you think is going on with that?
Oh, 100%. I just think that there's going to be some really good twists and turns in this show that will like by the end of it probably make you rethink everything when you go back to the first episode. I think it'll be like one of those shows where you have to after like the mystery gets solved, after like things kind of wrap up towards the end, you'll want to go back and go, "Huh, was this all like kind of hinted at in the beginning?" And you'll look back at certain characters and the way they react to certain things, and you'll be like, "Ooh, that could mean something completely different now, knowing what we know."
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's almost standard Damon Lindelof in regards to how he likes to do his stuff. Um, Tom King is really brilliant with that as well. Yeah, I just think this is going to be a really smart television series. I think it's going to be a really well thought out series, to certainly say the least. And if anything, looking back on it, I am trying to figure out how something like Sinestro fits into play here with this town in regards to all these superpowered beings in here. If he's maybe Sinestro's putting together his own Green Lantern Corps here somewhere, or his Yellow Lantern Corps.
Yeah, I do wonder. I also wonder if like Hal Jordan and Sinestro have history at this point, or if this is going to be like their first time meeting each other.
I'm well, considering this is a veteran Hal Jordan here in his later stages. I gotta assume that there's some history here, and even from the comic books, I love their dialogues. I love their moments just back and forth, because there is such a dense history between these two, especially with Hal being Sinestro having been his mentor at some particular point in time. So it's really personal between these two. So I am hoping that that kind of gets explored in here and really leads to some incredible sequences and scenes and amazing dialogue between Sinestro and Hal for sure. But I'm really looking forward to this, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Same here.
do you know when the release schedule of this is?
Ooh, let's look this up.
Because I know we got Peacemaker after Supergirl or after Superman, but I'm wondering if this is going to release before Supergirl does or not. I don't know if there's been any word out there.
It just says 2026 at the moment. So if I were a betting man, I would probably assume like holiday season of next year.
Gotcha. Y-Arc, what's up, Y-Arc? He says Green Lantern ring maybe runs out of power. That's how they can be on Earth instead of space. Possibility. Yeah, we don't know what's going on with the Green Lantern power core right now, so that's certainly a possibility.
Or they just go with the Zordon rules of never escalate a fight. So they can't use their power rings unless like the villain actually is too strong for them to take on without it.
Blossom says, I say we see both their civilian look and Lanterns look. Yeah, they could release them simultaneously for sure.
That would be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, man, give us like a photo set from like Entertainment Weekly or something like that, like 4 or 5 photos of the cast and whatnot. That'd be pretty dope.
Definitely.
So we'll see. We'll keep you guys posted in regards to DCU Lanterns. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. Some of the best written scripts that she's ever read, says that she feels like even with somebody that's not big into sci-fi, this a script allowed it to be very accessible into the sci-fi genre. So when she says things like that, I do think that there are certainly elements of the fantastical in here, or at least the intergalactic aspect of things. But it does I don't know, I'm gonna be blown away to see how they balance this out, Stuart, truly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let us know your guys' thoughts after reading those quotes, what you guys certainly expect from the DCU Lantern series in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, let's move on to our next topic from the DCU to the MCU, Stuart. We've been highlighting a lot about the upcoming the Daredevil Born Again series, set to go ahead and drop this upcoming March, just a little bit over a month away. Really looking forward to seeing what the show is going to be about. But the showrunner had a sit down conversation with SFX Magazine. And I tell you, they've had content for weeks already coming out of this interview. I don't know how many times they've interviewed this man or how many pieces of information that they've been able to sparse out of this interview to constantly make brand new articles left and right over the past 2 weeks. But the showrunner is not letting up in regards to giving us a little bit more insight in regards to Daredevil Born Again series. This time, talking about maybe some connections to the overall MCU. And I found this one rather interesting, Stuart. Let's go ahead and dive into this and see what he's talking about this week. This is again from gamesradar.com through their SFX magazine website, saying that Daredevil Born Again showrunner had a very early vision for the show, but was forced to pivot after it got in the way of Marvel's master plan. So I still find
I'm assuming that's related to the first 2 or 3 episodes that they ended up completely reshooting, or they completely scrapped.
Oh, you think so? Okay, let's
I think.
yeah, let's dive in. Let's see what they're talking about here. We got a what Tatiana Maslany sighting here. I almost want to go back and watch this interaction between them and She-Hulk, to be honest with you. I was a really big fan of their interactions here.
Same.
Born Again showrunner Dario Scardapin learned that the heart. Oh, here, never mind. From Miss Marvel becoming a key character in the Marvel sequel, to Agatha all along seemingly set it up the Young Avengers movie, it's near impossible these days to create a standalone MCU style title. Even on the small screen, Daredevil Born Again showrunner learned that the hard way when he was coming up with an overarching story for the new Disney Plus show. Marvel has a master plan, and what you're doing causes ripple effects. He explains. I would pitch stuff very early, and I would hear that they had other plans. Interesting. He says, I have plenty of leeway up until I hit a larger scale plan for the MCU. So I try to ignore some stuff from the wider universe. We establish a very specific Daredevil, both in terms of his dilemma, down to the suit, and where we're picking up in his life. You can say that Daredevil is canon in the MCU. Those other events in Spider-Man and She-Hulk happened, but some of them we are not leaning into. His one-night stand with She-Hulk may be one of those things. So they clearly happen, Stuart, but they're not necessarily focused on bringing those moments to the small screen or mentioning them in the show. While it won't spend time delving into his brief romance with Jennifer Walters, Daredevil Born Again is set to see a retired Matt Murdock forced back into the mask when William Fisk starts terrorizing Hell's Kitchen again. Deborah Ann Wool. Okay, so he just says they're all back. He says they've moved Matt through other corners of the MCU, and now he's back in his own story. I don't want to give anything away, but you're going to see a character in our show you never thought you would. But they get folded into the story in a manner that is organic and exists in our world. New York and the current state of the MCU has a lot of stuff going on. Interesting. So this does make me wonder, with him talking about the concept of how this world that he's creating is still set in the MCU, but that it may not necessarily tackle some of the things that we've seen before of Daredevil's adventures since we last seen him in the Netflix show. And when he talks about the idea that like what you do causes kind of ripple effects in this particular world, I am interested to kind of see like if the MCU character that he's talking about in here, if this was his plan, or if this was Marvel's plan. Like in the sense of, hey, we really want this character to be in the show. Can you find a place for them? Sort of mentality. So
Mhm.
I would be interested to kind of see if this is something that he originally plans to kind of play with, because clearly, if what he writes has a rippling effect, if it was his decision to add this particular character, clearly Marvel Studios was either like, okay, because we don't really have plans for this character as of right now, so you can utilize them however you want to, or just know if you use this character, this will have an effect in regards to the bigger overall master MCU plan that they certainly have. So it is fascinating to kind of hear him say that. If I had to make a suggestion as to who it could possibly be, the first person that comes to mind, oddly enough, is Miss Marvel. And it sounds crazy to say that. And I only say that because just from the trailers alone, we have seen Miss Marvel's father in the
Mhm.
trailer. And we've been wondering to ourselves, like, how the hell does this man even get in here? Or unless maybe that's the character that he's talking about is Miss Marvel's father. But that would just be odd to kind of bring up in an interview unless they had a bigger part, like unless they were a bigger character. So he's either talking about Miss Marvel's father or she herself will eventually pop up in here.
It would also be weird if that's who he was talking about because we already see him in the trailer. So it's like, what
Right.
do you mean we're not going to believe that? We see it like in the
Yeah, that's
trailer.
true. That's true. So you might be right. It probably is somebody else. And so if I had to guess, my first intuition is to say Miss Marvel in here, who I would be perfectly fine with because I haven't seen Viliani. If am I pronouncing her last name correct? Aman Villani in quite some time. It would also feel odd too because she literally just came off a Disney Plus show and Miss Marvel and the Marvels, and then you put her in like this TV 14 like violent,
I think it's TVMA.
it might be this really heavily violent sort of television show. Like, how would she even pop up in here? But if she's here to like maybe help out Matt Murdock or to help out her father, sort of mentality, maybe that would be it. She's my first guess. If I took some time, maybe I could go down the rabbit hole and try and figure out who else certainly might be in here. I might leave that up to you, Stuart, if you have any other guesses yourself. But I am interested to kind of see what Matt Murdock's world is like. The showrunner has been coming out and talking very highly about how, and I've even heard some of the actors themselves say like the violence in here is ridiculous. Like Charlie Cox has said, like there's a scene in here where he can't even watch it because it's that brutal sort of thing. Like
Ooh.
they are really going above and beyond. Like a fan said, "Oh, I wonder if they're going to be like Netflix or if they're going to pull back and Disney this down." It does not seem like they're Disneying it down at all. And I'm wondering if fans are now going to be like, I think the show is too violent, guys. Like, I think you might need to reel it back. And we want it violent, but this is a little bit too dark, sort of thing. So there are some things the showrunner has said that has really gotten me amped for this show, has made me a little bit hesitant at times. But this is just one of those other things where it's like clearly he's coming out of retirement. Even though they're not going to mention things like No Way Home or the Jennifer Walters thing, I hope that there's at least a line or a piece of dialogue in here that at least maybe references it briefly, but doesn't sit on it too much. Because clearly he wasn't retired when he was with Jennifer Walters, even though he did have a completely different costume. So I do wonder if he brings up maybe what happened after the last time that we saw him and to put him into some level of retirement. So I would be kind of curious to see if that's explored. But Stuart, I'll throw this over to you. How do you feel about the idea of him saying what we write has rippling effects? Even though we want to make our own standalone title and things like that, we still have to understand that there's sort of an impact into the greater MCU. And who do you think that this cameo is that he's possibly talking about?
I'm gonna go with your idea and say that it's probably Miss Marvel. Mostly because I actually really want it to be Miss Marvel because, like we were talking, like you were mentioning, also like very different type of tone, and I think that would be what would make it so great. Because that's what I loved about when Daredevil was in She-Hulk. You know, they managed to work in a show that had a very different tone than She-Hulk, but yet the two of them I still feel like had really awesome chemistry, and I think you could definitely get that with Miss Marvel and Daredevil like together in the same show, especially if she's going into a TVMA rated TV show, you know, where everything was definitely like written in a more like kind of like a funny and a lot more of a lighthearted kind of way in both her show and in the Marvels. Now she's kind of in like kind of the more grounded, real, kind of, I don't know if I want to call it the real world, but you know, in the more grounded setting, seeing what people without her about abilities have to, how they have to like kind of struggle, you know, when you don't have like the, you know, these cosmic superpowers, when you're just kind of like a human who's really good at fighting. I mean, obviously he has like enhancements because he's blind, so he can, and his powers let him see better than most people, but you know what I mean, like in the sense of he can't you know, he can't quite do what, you know, other big heroes out there can. And so I'm wondering, you know, what it's going to be like to see her interact with that kind of a world, basically. Yeah, I just think it'd be kind of, it would just make for better writing. I feel like, or for more creative writing in terms of the type of stories you could tell if you went with a character like that. But if I had to guess someone else, if it wasn't going to be her, another hero I would actually be cool with seeing is Hawkeye or Echo. And
Oh,
only because like both of them also have relations to Kingpin in one way or
Hawkeye
another.
is in like Kate Bishop.
Either version, actually.
Okay,
I could see either version of Hawkeye appearing in this, so I'd be cool with either one of those. You know, appearing in Daredevil. I would definitely love to see some MCU connection in here, just because, again, going back to the contrast and how great it would be to go from, you know, something where we're always used to seeing these characters with huge powers taking on big battles, and now we're going to see that big of a character, you know, in a more grounded setting where it's like a regular person fighting a regular battle that you cannot punch your way out of, because, you know, Kingpin has both, you know, political power and just, you know, he has people who for some reason still fall for his crap over and over, even though he's been arrested so many times. Oh my gosh, Daredevil really is the real world.
yeah, tell me, yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, tell me about it. It hits a little bit too close to home when you say that. But you know, you're kind of right in the sense of, well, one, I will point out in the interview, he does emphasize the idea we are in New York City. So when he says things like that, it's like, okay, maybe it's a hero that has connections to this city or nearby. So I think the concept of maybe even Kate Bishop's Hawkeye, or like you said, any Hawkeye would certainly make sense, considering that we know that she is in New York City. Yeah, and the Miss Marvel one would certainly be fascinating to me too. But I completely agree in the sense that it would be really cool, especially for like, and this is just because I think Kate Bishop, from a drama and more serious point of view, we've seen her kind of get into that bag in the Hawkeye series that we had from season one. And so to take somebody like Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, and kind of put her in there, like, I think just from an acting perspective of trying to see like what Amon can do as far as range goes, as a more serious actor, to maybe throw her or thrust her into that situation, I think would be really fun to kind of watch. And I agree with you. I think from a creative standpoint, it would really add a lot of great dimensions. And just to kind of see, because we haven't really seen like you mentioned, we haven't really seen a lot of superpowers in a Daredevil show. At least to the point of like something that he can't necessarily handle by himself. And so, you know, it is always that contrast of, you know, you put Daredevil in an Avengers movie, you know, what's a big, you know, crossover film, who's he fighting? You know, like, is he going to be fighting these big ass, you know, how's he going to do against somebody like a Thanos, you know, or a Kang the Conqueror sort of mentality? You know, the idea of putting somebody like Daredevil against a really super powered villain, I think is also another fascinating situation to kind of see that maybe explored at some point in time, whether that's something that they do in this Netflix series or somewhere down the line. I have no idea, but it would be cool to kind of see him interact with somebody of those powers and abilities, if you will.
See, that would be funny. Daredevil versus Thanos, because I imagine it going down like Hercule versus Cell from Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, now we'll see who winds up popping up in here, but I continue to be really excited for what this series is going to do here. But let's see what some people says. Marcelino says, I heard that the uh-oh. I heard oops, sorry. I heard that the original plan for season 4 on Netflix was that the owl would have taken over Fisk's role. I would have been down for the owl. Melvin becoming and Typhoid Mary would be the main villain who previously appears in Iron Fist. After the overhaul, when the new directors and writers were brought in, they consumed Daredevil by watching the Netflix show and read countless comics. Fans say that this is what they wanted, writers who love the characters and do the research, because they hated that She-Hulk writers didn't bother to do the research and didn't read the comics. I mean,
Is that true though? Because
I don't know.
I don't know. To
I
me,
really don't know.
She-Hulk, yeah, because to me, She-Hulk felt like the most, one of the most, anyways, comic book accurate kind of adaptations.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Was that John Byrne? The John Byrne role? He was I remember John Byrne being the artist. So he was the writer too for the sensational She-Hulk comic book run, wasn't he? Where she's
Oh,
breaking the fourth wall and stuff. I might have to check that out. But yeah, I thought hers was pretty comic accurate too. I don't know what the relationship between, if she ever had a relationship with Matt Murdock, but I thought it was a fascinating one, even if they wanted to take some liberties and whatnot. It worked for me in that sense.
I don't know if either of them have hooked up in the comic books, but I do know that both of them love having both of them have meaningless hookups all the time in the comic book. So the two of them hooking up in the MCU is not far-fetched at all.
Yeah, no, that's not far fetched at all. I mean, especially Matt Murdock. I mean, how many times have we seen women like fall for this guy in just a series alone? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm rewatching season 1 of Daredevil right now. I mean, he's got, Karen Page falling for this guy with his one-liners and stuff. He's just a sly fox. He knows he's a womanizer for sure. He's got Rosario Dawson as the night nurse. Like the girl's moved in with him after he's rescued her. I mean, the guy is a sly fox. Like, you can't sleep on Matt Murdock, man, at all. So yeah, he's Matt Murdock's a little loose in his own sense, for sure.
I just realized, is she going to be in Daredevil Born Again?
Rosario?
The night Rosario Dawson. Yeah, is she
I
going to
don't
be
know.
back?
I have not heard anything. I was thinking that when I was watching it, but I have not heard anything.
Because yeah, she's like the connective tissue of all the Netflix shows.
Yeah, right. You would think maybe she might be brought back, but who knows? Maybe maybe that's who he's referring to.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a surprise. Maybe it's a
That would
return
be
of the night
cool.
nurse.
Yes.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. What's your excitement level for Daredevil Born Again? I feel like we've been highlighting stories from this series over the past 2 or 3 weeks, but I definitely would love to know your guys' thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below.
How excited are you for this show, and why is it your most anticipated MCU project?
But yeah, let us know your thoughts, guys. All right. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic. I mean, look, Stuart, we just got done talking about Daredevil Born Again. And I think this is a really great transition from this poster into this poster, baby, as Super Bowl 59 is next weekend, February 9th. We got a rematch from 2 years ago. Kansas City Chiefs going for their three-peat up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley going after their very first Super Bowl ring here. I bring this up because Super Bowl 59 is in the news, and usually every Super Bowl, Stuart, one of the most anticipated aspects of the Super Bowl, outside of the football game, or maybe you're not a football fan, but you literally watch the Super Bowl for the commercials, and most importantly, Stuart, the trailers, baby, the trailers. Deadline.com this week reported on some potential trailers that we could be seeing during the Super Bowl on February 9th, which is next Sunday, along with how much it's going to cost some studios and just some companies for an ad when it comes to Super Bowl 59. So, Stuart, I thought it would be fun to kind of get an idea of what we could potentially be seeing, what we could certainly hope that we get the opportunity to see. So let's go ahead and bring this up here from Deadline. Jurassic World Rebirth, Thunderbolts, Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning among expected Super Bowl movie trailers. It cannot be denied. The Super Bowl generally translates into big box office. However, there are only 3 motion picture studios, Disney, Paramount, and Universal, willing to pony up to the 7.5 million to 8 million for a 30-second spot on Fox before an audience that last year reached 123.7 million viewers across the world. That's about maybe like a quarter of a population here. That's or 1/3 of the population here. That's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
For those in the dark, Super Bowl 59 on February is a rematch, yada, yada, yada. We talked a little bit about that. Say what you will about the linear being dead, but when it comes to live sports programming, it's still a prime means of reaching a movie-going audience. Big tentpole movies like Deadpool and Wolverine open to 211 million. Wicked open to 112 million. Launched during last year's Super Bowl. This year, count on the following to either air, either pre, during, or post game. So this is what I find fascinating, because sometimes I go into the Super Bowl just at kickoff time and I find out I've missed a trailer or two already. So it's almost like they want me to watch the damn pregame show also to get ready, because I might miss something. So it says count on the following to either air pre, during, or post. So let's dive into this, Stuart. What could we expect from the Super Bowl? Disney, the number 1 studio of last year with more than $2.2 billion in domestic box office, has always had a presence. It won't be surprising if it shows off wares for its upcoming pictures like Snow White, Lilo and Stitch, and Pixar's Elio. We understand that they'll only be showing off 2 out of the 3 MCU movies, a batch that includes the following: Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four: The First Steps. That said, the studio has also launched the first look, has always launched the first look of a big summer movie during the game, like Deadpool and Wolverine, and then Solo, a Star Wars story. So it almost sounds like it won't be a surprise if it shows off wares. Okay, so they're not necessarily confirming Snow White, Lilo and Stitch, and Pixar's Elio, but it's saying don't be surprised, right? So this is maybe what could be expected. So it looks like they understand we're going to be getting 2 out of the 3 Marvel films, and then maybe some of these other ones as well. So Stuart, if you had to guess, which route do you think they're going to go? Snow White, Lilo and Stitch, or Pixar's Elio, or do you think all 3?
I think there's a good chance we're going to get Lilo and Stitch, because it seems like they want to try to market it similar to how they marketed it in the early 2000s, which is just Stitch appearing in other people's like trailers or other things that you wouldn't expect to see him in. So I would assume Lilo and Stitch is probably a safe bet. Maybe Elio as well, because I feel like there hasn't been that much marketing for it, and I think Super Bowl might be a good time to start.
Yeah, that might be a good one. I do wonder if they'll do Snow White. There's so much controversy behind it. I do wonder if they feel like, should we really spend $7.5 to $8 million for the 30-second spot in here, or is it best to just go ahead and drop maybe another trailer online at some other particular point in time? I do think Lilo and Stitch for sure. We've been getting so many little teases. I think it's about time, especially it was a big animated series, a big animated movie, had a great animated series. I think Lilo and Stitch, you want to have as much momentum behind it as possible. So I do think Lilo and Stitch and Elio are definitely major possibilities. Snow White almost feels like if we are going to get Snow White, that'll probably be like a post game, when maybe some people have checked out, or like an early pre-game when a lot of people haven't necessarily checked in as of yet. But I do think main wise, I think Lilo and Stitch is almost a guaranteed, and maybe
Hmm.
stars Elio for sure. What about the movies themselves for MCU? Brave New World releases February 14th. Do you spend $7.5 to $8 million for a movie that's about to be released the week after Super Bowl? Um, or do you focus on Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four as big tentpole pieces to focus on?
It's interesting. I don't know marketing wise if that's something that they would want to do, if they would want to like promote a movie for Super Bowl that comes out the next week. It would make sense only because like then you have it fresh in their minds for a week, and so you may even get people booking tickets, after seeing the trailer during Super Bowl. So I don't know. I think I would personally show the Captain America trailer, and then because Thunderbolts, we've already gotten a couple teasers for that. I would probably have the first teaser for Fantastic Four during Super Bowl. So if I were gonna guess the two out of the three, I think I'm gonna go with Captain America and Fantastic Four. Oh, you were muted.
I can see that too. I guess Brave New World to me has like a pre-Super Bowl vibe to it, maybe just before kickoff or something like that. But yeah, Fantastic Four for sure, I think is going to be on here. There have been some reports that Fantastic Four may be dropping even earlier than the Super Bowl. Um, comicbook.com published a screenshot of a press release that mentioned the Fantastic Four by name for an ABC show, their Good Morning America, saying that Tuesday, February 4th, because it would be F for February, 4 for the number 4. Coming up with Valentine's gift ideas, that the debut of the Fantastic Four movie trailer. But I've also heard that since then, Good Morning America has also scratched that, or at least they've removed that from their website. So I don't believe it's up there anymore to highlight it. I personally think it would be a mistake to put it on Good Morning America. I think the first time that we see it should be Super Bowl, if you ask
Mm-hmm.
me. I really do think so. But we do know that ABC does like to release stuff for Good Morning America. But I think regardless, even if it does drop a week early, I still say that you put it as part of the Super Bowl. There's a part of me that wants to see the Thunderbolts on there, but I don't know. I'm almost in agreement with you. Like the last push for Captain America Brave New World, you want to get people excited. You want to pull people out to the theaters. Thunderbolts necessarily isn't until May. So you definitely do have a few months to continue to build up that level of excitement for that movie. But Fantastic Four would be it being such a highly anticipated film. I definitely want that in the Super Bowl. So you might be right, Stuart. I might agree with you in that regards. I wouldn't be surprised if they show Thunderbolts instead of Brave New World, but maybe the final push for Brave New World and Fantastic Four would be pretty good, because I think Thunderbolts is gaining some momentum almost all on its own a little bit.
Yeah.
Universal, the number 2 studio with $1.88 billion domestically last year, will be wowing trailers with the live action of How to Train Your Dragon. So we will be getting a new official trailer for How to Train Your Dragon, which I think momentum-wise, perfect. That's set to go ahead and drop June 13th. There's a lot of anticipation behind that film also. So that definitely makes sense, because I think we've just gotten teasers. So our first live action trailer, I think, would be great. If it's going to be 30 seconds, who knows? I mean, if you're paying 7.5 to $8 million for just 30 seconds, imagine the idea of the balls of like having to drop a minute and a half trailer. I don't even know if they would even do something like that, or they'll give us like a 30-second tease and say, look at the rest online, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've done that before, though, I think, if I remember correctly. There's been trailers released where it's like only 30 seconds, but of course you have to go online to see the full trailer. Like, I think Doctor Strange did that when they released the first trailer for Multiverse Madness.
Yeah, you might be right. I do recall that. And then he says, and then also Scarlett Johansson's Mahershala Ali Jurassic World Rebirth on July 2nd. Yes, that needs to happen. I need a Jurassic World Rebirth. We've been getting first look images. We know that that movie has officially wrapped. That movie went into production quick. The script was quick. Filming was quick. I mean, they seem like they were ready to get this movie out in a year. And you got two big tentpole actors like that. Yes, please give me a trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth.
Yeah.
It also says, don't be surprised if you catch a Blumhouse title like Megan 2.0, which is set for June 27th. You'll remember how Universal previously stunted the first installment of Dancing Megan dolls on talk shows and popular landmarks like Empire State Building. So yeah, Megan 2.0 is a possibility. Paramount is no stranger to the Super Bowl, even with its sister company CBS network. Paramount Plus isn't broadcasting it. Fox has the game this year. This year, the buzz is that Paramount will air spots for the Jack Quaid comedy thriller Novocaine, March 14th. That actually looks like a pretty funny movie. Actually looks pretty good. The Smurfs animated musical movie starring Rihanna, and in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Mission movies drop Super Bowl spots in 2018 and 2023. So yeah, I think they'll probably drop another one. As far as if there's a bigger stunt related to the film, Tom Cruise likes to keep those surprises under his belt. I mean, I don't know.
Of course.
I don't know if they're going to do a big stunt for the show, but I can definitely see Final Reckoning. I can see all three of these movies being up there, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Smurfs animated musical movie, I think, would be smart on their part to go ahead and highlight if they were to do it that way. But those are the only three studios. So sitting out this year are Sony, Warner Brothers, Netflix, Amazon Studios, and Lionsgate. It's also expected that Apple Studios will not have anything either. It does say James Gunn's Superman won't have a new spot because they did have a trailer that aired during the AFC and NFC championship games. But I am hearing word that there may be a teaser during the Puppy Bowl. There may be a new spot for the Puppy Bowl. I'm not expecting an official trailer or anything like that, but I do expect maybe some level of like a new tease like we got for the AFC and NFC game, a brief little new 30-second spot. I expect one like that for Puppy Bowl. And if anything, Stuart, I would expect Crypto to be one of the main characters in it.
Of course, you got to show off the crypto scenes during Puppy Bowl. I feel like that would make the most sense.
In some weird way, that is like my most anticipated tease of the Super Bowl is the Puppy Bowl Superman tease. I am really curious to see what they do with that one. Like his interaction with other superheroes. Maybe he's saving some people of his own. I mean, who knows? If anything, would you expect anything more than a 30-second teaser?
No, definitely not. I would probably, if anything, I would expect a funny scene from the movie that just happens to have crypto in it. Like, it's something I'd love to see in live action, but it would be really hard to animate or just visualize. But something from the comics that Superman used to do, which is playing fetch with crypto, but he would use a tree instead of a stick.
Yo, that would be dope. That would be dope. I was gonna say maybe Crypto peeing on somebody's leg, but that's not very heroic.
Yeah. Plus, like, I was gonna make a bad joke. Never mind.
Yeah, I do dig the fetch, the fetch aspect of it. I think that'd be pretty cool. But we'll see. I do expect some level of humor, especially with it being Crypto. And I can just see the Snyder Bros now, just like just losing their shit over a humorous dog tease. Like, this is the Superman movie y'all wanted. Like, I could just see it already.
Yeah. Them being like, oh my gosh, comedy and Superman, because we totally didn't have that in Man of Steel.
Yeah, I could totally see them crashing out over it. But yeah, guys, look, out of all the Super Bowl movie trailers that are expected or possibly expected to drop, what are the ones that you're looking forward to the most? Mine would definitely be, if I had to say off the top of my head, definitely Fantastic Four and definitely Jurassic Park Rebirth, Jurassic World Rebirth. Those are the two that I'm really looking forward to seeing the most Super Bowl weekend.
I'm really looking forward to How to Train Your Dragon. The more I see that first trailer that they released, the more I'm finding myself getting really hyped for it. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And Stuart, we got another topic here that we're going to be diving into today as we wind up getting ourselves a brand new look at the upcoming Ryan Coogler film with Michael B. Jordan titled Sinners. They went ahead and recently released a brand new poster for us with the release date going to be April 18th. They got some really great big names in here. I wind up finding this wallpaper too, which I might make my new wallpaper on my laptop here. But I don't know if you've had the opportunity to check it out for yourself, Stuart. Did you?
The new trailer, yes,
Yeah.
I got to see it on the big screen because I think they premiered it for the new Jack Wade movie, Companion.
Oh, really? Did you see Companion? Have you seen that yet?
No, but I was working the theater. I really want to because I've seen the first 40 minutes of it and it is hilarious. It's funny. I think Jack Wade is like just doing his new typecast seems to be playing the nice guy or the adorable nice guy boyfriend who turns out to be kind of a creep.
Okay. Maybe I'll check it out. But I didn't know that they had a release on the big screen already, so that's pretty cool. I can't wait to sit in theaters for it myself. But for those of you who have not had the opportunity to check it out, let's go ahead and sit down and check out this trailer and see what it's all about, and then we'll give our thoughts for it at the very end. So let's go ahead and bring this up here. All right, this is Sinners, dropping April 18th.
We've been gone a long time. We back now. You twins? Nah, we cousins.
There are legends of people with the gift of making music so true. It can conjure spirits from the past and the future. This gift can bring fame and fortune.
Will somebody take me in your eyes?
But it also can pierce the veil between life and death.
I will say, Stuart, I really do dig that concept. And remember, we got to remember, this is an original movie from Ryan Coogler. So this isn't based off any pre-existing material or anything like that. But, one of the things, as somebody that kind of, I do appreciate jazz and blues music. And I just remember stories of like blues musicians from back in the day that quote unquote sold their soul to the devil in order to make it big, or like have like music that kind of could tap into sort of that element a little bit. And so to kind of see him take elements of those like myths and legends and whatnot and kind of flip it on its head to make a movie about vampires and demons and stuff, I think is a really cool concept, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I'll save my thoughts for the end.
Yeah. This ain't no house party. Shit. Y'all ready to drink? Y'all ready to sweat till y'all stink?
You want some?
You keep dancing with the devil.
Careful, boy. You gonna bite off more than you can chew.
One day he's gonna follow you home. We got us a problem, y'all. What the hell going on?
Oh, we heard tale of a party.
This world already left you for dead.
I can save you from your fate.
You don't need no saving.
Yes, you do.
And you are?
I am your way out. Don't cry. It's all better now.
Yes, I lied to you. I don't believe in magic. Ghosts, demons. Just power. Somebody please take me.
We're gonna kill every last one of you.
I ain't mean to scare you. Thought y'all done forgot about me in here. Come on, open the door, let me on out of here. Stay. That's you? Of course it's me. Open the door.
That ain't your brother.
Love you.
I mean, look at this lineup, dog.
Mm-hmm.
Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell, Miles Catton, Wunmi Mosaku from we just recently saw her in Loki, Jamie Lawson, Omar Miller, Lee Jun Lee, and one of my favorites, Delroy Lindo, man, is in here too. Crazy trailer, dude. This is why this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I think this came in at like number 3 or 4 for me or something like that. I cannot wait for this freaking movie, Stuart, to be quite frank with you, man. What did you think of the trailer? You said you wanted to keep your thoughts for this trailer at the end. What did you think about it?
Yeah, so I just want to say this looks freaking amazing. Not only just like the way it's shot, but you know, the freaking lineup of the cast that we have looks incredible. The performances look absolutely great. And then of course, man, I'm a sucker for vampires, and that's what it really just all comes down to. This trailer could have just looked mediocre, and I still would have probably been excited. I also love the idea of it being set in the church. Also, like kind of the mythology they bring in the beginning. The idea of music being so powerful, it can reach out to the past, and then sometimes attract the wrong kind. I guess you could say evil like spirits and that kind of thing. And yeah, my biggest curiosity now, it's like, so we got like these characters who seem to be vampires. We like that seems to be what the trailer is trying to lead us to believe, essentially. And it looks like where it takes place for the most part is a church. And I'm wondering, because I have like kind of a similar horror film that I've been writing for a little bit, if they're doing something similar where it's like a little bit of a stalemate where they're kind of like stuck inside. They can't leave because obviously vampires are outside, but the vampires can't go inside because vampires can't enter a building if they're not invited. So I wonder if there's like a little stalemate thing kind of going on there. And then we see a lot of fire. So the vampires are just eventually like, we'll just burn the place down then. Again, that's like, I say all this because I have a similar horror movie that I'm currently writing. It's hilarious, kind of like in that aspect. I just think also I got to give some props to, even though this is a horror movie, there are some action pieces in here that look pretty incredible. Like specifically when Michael B. Jordan's like walking out of the building, one of them's about to like jump right on him, and he's just like blasting in the head right there. Like, oh, that looked hella cool. I think what's also cool is that they're not giving too many details about the plot away. So I love that there's still a lot we just don't know about going into this.
Yeah, there's certainly still a lot of mystery surrounding this movie that I am really fascinated with. But for me, and I like you said, you're a big vampire fan, and I am too, in the sense that I always am fascinated to see how they depict them, and I'm really glad that Ryan Coogler went with the like the Twilight eyes, like the glowing eyes and stuff, like when we see Haley Steinfeld's character kind of stand up and her eyes are twinkling, it's got that shine to them. Even towards the end, when Michael B. Jordan's twin it's like it's still me, and you see his crooked head with his eyes kind of glowing, sort of thing. There is an element, I will say, from just a trailer perspective, there's a part of me that kind of wishes they kept that element hidden, in the sense that his brother would eventually kind of get turned. but it does add to a really fascinating sort of acting performance wise that I'm really eager to see Michael B. Jordan kind of tap into. Not only does he have to portray himself, but then he also has to portray his twin brother. And I think I read somewhere too that they had like a twin coach come in, like twin coaches come in to kind of teach him like the differences between twins, or how twins read each other or know each other, sort of thing. So to have him have to then give not only two performances, but then have one that turns into a vampire also. Michael B. Jordan's going to be doing some heavy lifting in this movie, and I honestly can't wait to kind of see it brought to life in here. The music alone, soundtrack wise, to the trailer sounds great. I think it's definitely emphasizes the idea of like music clearly playing a theme and a role in this. And like you mentioned, Stuart, right? The idea of like music being able to tap into something and attract something, evil. I am a big fan of the elements of like black magic that might be involved in here. And again, I think it's really smart for Ryan Coogler to kind of take that classic blues and jazz sort of mythologies and legends about people, at the crossroads, singing, making deals with the devil in order to kind of be famous, sort of mentality, like all of that kind of coming together to, oh shit, we awoken something and now something's coming after us, sort of thing. That's really fascinating to me. So everything looks great in here, man. I cannot wait to see this movie in theaters. I am curious as to like why, because it seems like they eventually start getting picked off in here. Haley winds up becoming a vampire. Homeboy that pulls Michael B. Jordan's character out, he eventually becomes a vampire, right? So like, what is drawing these people out of this barn or church or club or wherever they're hanging out at in what's drawing them out to kind of face these people, sort of thing. It will make me interested to kind of see. And look, Haley Steinfeld as a vampire, yes please. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Haley Steinfeld as a vampire? But it does make me also wonder, like, is there a relationship between her and one of the brothers, with one of the brothers turning into a vampire? Like, I have all this speculation now and theories in my head, like, how did he turn into a vampire? Did he fall for Haley Steinfeld after she was a vampire? Like, I'm really curious as to how this kind of all unfolds, and clearly people are starting to get picked off in here. So yeah, man, I think Ryan Coogler has done it again, and I can see why a lot of people were bidding, had such a big bidding war for this movie in the first place. But trailer wise, you got my attention, man. I'm really hyped for this movie. April 18th, y'all. If you've had the opportunity to check out the trailer, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. What really stood out to you about this trailer? Let us know, please.
I wonder if some people just go voluntarily once they hear the idea of, hey, when you're a vampire, you don't age.
Oh, say that again?
Oh, if anyone like left the building voluntarily because they wanted to be turned into vampires, because they hear the idea of, hey, you don't age when you're a vampire, you get to be young forever.
Yeah, I guess there's some benefits. I feel like more cons than pros, though.
Oh yeah, you can't go out in the sunlight. That's definitely a major downside.
Yeah, he said Ryan Coogler talked about his history with major Hollywood franchises. Also, there was a Q&A event. He says, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the business in terms of the cast that I've been able to work with, but this one is up there with the best ones. He says, because it wasn't based on any pre-existing material, I think all the actors took ownerships of their characters. That was really so amazing to watch. He says, this cast reminds me of Black Panther films, but in a way that's maybe more exciting in it, that when audience watch this is going to be the first time that they see these people. There's no comic books on it. They really made a community when we were filming down in the South. They really looked out for each other. So yeah, he's having a lot of excitement of being able to, while I'm sure he enjoys working for big franchise films, I think he seemingly, just from some of the stuff I've read from Ryan Coogler, he's having a lot of excitement from the idea of I'm getting back to being able to do original things now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
It's like I love working, or he's probably like I loved working with Marvel, but now I loved having to or getting to like make my decisions without having to check in and be like, hey, would this be all right if I use this character?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, with that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic here. I did go ahead and switch the order of this one, so I did change the banner order, so it is correct now. But there was a movie, Stuart, and this harkens back to like my high school days, man. Good horror thrillers, and one that I don't know if this fell under the radar for a lot of people, but it's one that I was actually a really big fan of growing up, and this was a 1998 film called The Faculty, where it was like a high school movie where the kids eventually found out that their teachers were acting weird, or that there might have been some level of like alien invasion kind of going on to explain why their teachers were acting a little bit weird. They had some really big names in here, like Josh Hartnett. I think Elijah Wood was in it also. It was always one of my favorites growing up in high school for sure. This was probably during around the time when I was able to go to movies by myself at this point. So me and my high school buddies would certainly go out and check out movies. And The Faculty was certainly one of them. Well, I bring up this film, Stuart, if you recall. Let me pull up the image for those of you who don't recall The Faculty. Usher was in this movie even. This might have been like his maybe his like movie debut or something like that. I could be wrong, but it says, to the students of Harrington High, the principal and her posse of teachers have always been a little odd, but lately they've been behaving positively alien. Controlled by otherworldly parasites, the faculty try to infect students one by one. Cheerleader, football player, drug dealer, and new girl Mary Beth team up with some of their other classmates to fight back against the invaders. This was always a special one to me growing up as a kid. Did you ever see this one, Stuart?
I have not, but when did that come out? Because that definitely looks like an early 2000s type of poster.
Yeah, it was 1998, so it's just before the turn of the century.
Okay.
The movie was like a $15 million budget, wind up making about $40 million at the end of the day. So it was actually pretty well received. I mean, well, box office wise, I don't necessarily know if the movie was certainly well received or not, but we have a remake that's headed our way here, just in time, if you ask me. But this is from Variety.com. The Faculty remake set at Miramax with Robert Rodriguez producing. He will be producing, and the companion filmmaker Drew Hancock will be writing the script. I believe Robert Rodriguez actually did the first film, if I'm not mistaken, for The Faculty. But it says Miramax will go back to school with a new version of the 1998 sci-fi thriller that became a box office hit and a cult favorite. Robert Rodriguez, who directed the original, will produce the film. Breakout talent Drew Hancock is writing the remake script. We just talked about Companion, Stuart, but it says he will be writing and directing. Hits theaters. Oh, I'm sorry. They said Companion. He wrote and directed Companion. That will be hitting theaters this week. It's earned rave reviews. So yeah, it says the original version of The Faculty focused on a group of students who began to suspect that the offbeat administrators and teachers of the high school are hiding a deadly secret. The original movie boasted a screenplay by Kevin Williamson. Jon Stewart, Elijah Wood, Usher Raymond, Sean Hattasey, Josh Hartnett, Clea Duvall, who I think was really hot at the time too. It says it grossed an impressive $63 million. What I read said it was $40 million, so even better. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if it says anything else about the remake itself. No, it doesn't have any other anything else, but it does look like they will be getting a remake for it. Robert Rodriguez producing it with Drew Hancock as the writer. So I don't believe that they've announced a director as of yet, but we will be getting a Faculty remake, and I'm kind of excited for it.
Well, now I got to go watch the first one because you mentioned Robert Rodriguez, and immediately I'm like sold.
Yeah, I had no idea. This must have been one of his early works. Like, I wonder if this is like What else did he have before 1998? Um,
Dusk, or actually, he didn't
yeah,
direct that one. Never mind.
yeah, I wonder when did he write? He wrote it, didn't he?
Oh, which one?
Robert Rodriguez wasn't. What was he? How was he attached to Dusk Till Dawn?
Oh wait, he did direct it. My bad. I thought Tarantino directed that one. No, so he came up with the story for Dusk Till Dawn, directed it, but Tarantino wrote
Oh,
most of the
most
dialogue.
of
That's
the
what it was. Yeah.
gotcha. That's crazy. You go from Dusk Till Dawn and then 2 years later The Faculty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was by Robert Rodriguez, but yeah, now it makes me actually want to rewatch this film also. But yeah, this was back in my heyday, y'all. Back in my high school years. I was in high school from what 97 to 01. So this is maybe like my sophomore year that this kind of came out, or leading into my sophomore year this came out. So yeah, man, I'm excited for a remake of this. But yeah, if you haven't checked it out, guys, I highly recommend you do so. And then last but not least, Stuart, we're going to get into some Stranger Things, man. This is our last topic, and it's a big one here. They recently released a huge article over on Entertainment Weekly. We're probably not going to go through all of it, but there are some really juicy and interesting. We might go through all of it. There are some interesting and juicy details for Stranger Things season 5. You know what's interesting, Stuart? And I don't know if you're one of these people or not, but I would be kind of curious. You know, I've been seeing a lot of people online right now that are almost ready for Stranger Things to be over with. And I mean that in the sense of like, I am curious as to what the level of anticipation for a Stranger Things seasons 5. Like, I wonder if the idea of the seasons taking so long to produce, to come out, has kind of deflated people. I feel like there's some deflation in regards to the anticipation of Stranger Things seasons 5, or if it's a case of when the season drops or as we get closer to the actual release, people will be even more hyped for it. Because I'm not a believer in the sense that I feel like Stranger Things has fallen off in any capacity. Like, maybe outside of the hiccup that was season 2, I believe it was. I personally feel like each season thereafter has gotten significantly better, but maybe that's just certainly me. But the creators did talk about Stranger Things season 5 this week, and they are ready to floor us, Stuart. They're ready to put us on our ass in regards to this, saying things like it's going to be 8 blockbuster movies. This season has taken literally about a year to film, which is almost unheard of these days. So there's a lot of elements certainly going on when it comes to putting this together. So let's dive into this. And I would be curious to know, how do you feel, Stuart, about Stranger Things going into its 5th season?
You know, when it came to Stranger Things season 2, immediately I was like, I kind of want the show to end already. I think it just should have been a one and done. But then season 3 really surprised me, even though there was one kind of aspect of season 3 I didn't love. I still think, like, as a whole, it was definitely the best season. Or what its highs were the highest, I think, and I think the lowest were the lowest when it came to, actually not the lowest. I think season 2 still had the lowest. Season 4, almost a perfect season. I think that, like, the storylines that took place in Russia started to kind of bore me with Hopper and I forgot the mom's name, but, you know, her trying to get him back. Like, that started to bore me after a while, but I think everything else about season 4 was so great. Like, the production was huge. And, you know, this is what makes me kind of believe them when they say that they can't believe how big this production is getting with this season, because I look at what, you know, how big it gets season by season, how big season 3 looked compared to seasons 1 and 2, and how huge season 4 looked compared to season 3. I imagine we're going to get that same kind of gap, you know, like with season 5, it's probably going to look even bigger compared to season 4. You know, they just continue to get more epic in scale. They continue to, you know, raise the stakes. And yeah, every time I hear like a positive thing being said about Stranger Things season 5 from the cast and crew, at least I know it's like coming from a place of, well, they said this about the previous season, they were right. So it makes me think that they're probably going to be correct about, you know, this upcoming season as well. I'd say that, yeah, my hype level for the season is there, but I'm also with with the fans that want the show to end. I want the show to end before it gets bad. You know, we saw a preview what that could have looked like from that one episode in season 2 that everyone hates, and I don't want the show to turn into, you know, I want it to end on a high note so we can remember it fondly.
I would agree in that sense. I mean, I think I'm ready for it to end also, but I think my anticipation level for it is still pretty high as well. And I do think that this is ending. Is it ending at the most perfect? I will say, I think from a storyline perspective, it's ending at a good time. But I do also have to remember we did have the pandemic. We had a lot of things that really delayed a lot of this stuff. So while I feel like season 5 probably should have come like 2 years ago and kind of wrapped up, I think that's really what it feels like. It's been so drawn out that a lot of people are like, man, like we're still doing Stranger Things here. Okay. But I do think with this being the final season, I think I'm appreciating the level of hard work and the presentation that they're going to provide for us. And speaking of which, let's just go ahead and dive into this, man. This comes to us from Stranger Things season 5 from Entertainment Weekly. The creators liken final season to 8 blockbuster movie, and then they tease a franchise future. One of the co-creators say it's pretty insane as they talked at a Netflix preview event. The duo revealed a new behind-the-scenes teaser for Stranger Things in the Room, while confirming multiple other offshoots are in development for the franchise. Plus, they showed guests the first look at 2 of their upcoming non-Stranger Things Netflix series. So it seems like the Duffer Brothers are very much I don't want to say in the pocket of Netflix. That sounds really negative, but are clearly continuing to work really closely with Netflix and developing some other things outside of Stranger Things. He says, we spent a full year filming this season. By the end, we had captured over 650 hours of footage. So needless to say, this is our biggest and most ambitious season yet. It's like 8 blockbuster movies. It's pretty insane. You know, Stuart, when you hear something like that, I guesstimate how long are each episode you think going to be? Like, do you literally think that they're going to be movie length episodes?
100%. That's basically what we had in season 4. I think every
Was it?
episode
That's
was
why
like an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
It's why, so like season 4, I couldn't binge because it was just too long. So I don't think I did more than 1 episode a day. I think I actually had to do only 1 episode a day because of that.
Yeah, you might be right. I was just literally trying to think how long were each episode of season 4, but yeah, they had to clock in over an hour easy. He says, at the same time, we think it's, or hope it's, our most personal story. It was super intense and emotional, the film, for us and for our actors who have been with us for so long. And we've been making it together for almost 10 years now. There was a lot of crying. There was so much crying. The show means so much to all of us, and everyone put their hearts and souls into it. And we hope and believe that that passion is going to translate to the screen. I've been saying this before, Stuart. I think we need to get our tissues ready. And at least I think if people want to be pessimistic about Stranger Things, yeah, it's about time that it ends, sort of thing, or can we just get done with this sort of thing? If for those that have been paying attention to the story and have really grown up alongside with these characters and seeing how they've kind of grown up also, I personally think it's going to be emotional for me too. I would say I don't necessarily know if I felt that way at the end of season 4, but I think as we get closer and closer to season 5 and realizing just how much it really is coming to an end, and then even just thinking about how great, like how world changing the first season of Stranger Things was for a lot of people, to kind of see them go from kids to where they are now, and to have this story culminate not just for the actors but for the characters too. I think that's going to draw a lot of emotions out of me and a lot of people too. Like, even though some people are, I don't know how people are feeling about going into Stranger Things season 5, I have a feeling once it drops, I think it's going to get its flowers. I think a lot of people are really going to be showing how attached that they've been to these characters in this season. So I think they're absolutely right, and I hope it's a very personal story. I think it started off as a personal story in season 1, and I feel like it should end that way as well.
I definitely think so as well.
It says season 5 will be big and epic. There's no time for a ramp up. It's going to be intense from beginning to end. He also says it's going to feel familiar. This season is the biggest it's ever been in scale, but everyone's going back together in Hawkins, interacting they did the same way they were in season 1.
That's cool. Because don't get me wrong, I loved the fact that like the last couple of seasons, they had constantly been changing up the group dynamics, constantly going, oh, now these characters who we don't see interacting much have to work together. I loved that about the previous seasons. But, you know, I think that now for this big finale of a season, we need to have everyone together, like in the town together. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. The idea of it feeling familiar, I think, is just right. And you mentioned it too. Each season continues to grow in scale and scope. And it really did that, especially in season 4. Like you said, when you're going to Russia, and then you got the kids that are traversing across the United States, also, right? Like it's just from a locale point of view, it was huge. And so I am fascinated to kind of see, like, when they say this season is the biggest it's ever been in scale, like how do you still take that same level of scale that you did from season 4, but you center it in Hawkins? And that for me is really exciting. So I'm excited to kind of see what they do there. He says Matt acknowledges that while it may be the end of the story for these core characters, it's not goodbye for Stranger Things. He says there are many more stories to tell. He pointed towards the Stranger Things The First Shadow, which is a stage play and prequel story that is currently showcasing in London. And then the production makes its stateside debut this March on Broadway. He says beyond that, yeah, I didn't know that they were actually bringing it to Broadway, so that'd be interesting.
This is my first time hearing about it altogether. I didn't even know there was a stage production of Stranger Things.
I think it's in regards to the main villain, the first the first person that was experimented on. I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. Vivek, what was his name? Damn it. I can't remember the villain's name now.
I can't either, and it was just on the top of my head, like like a second ago. Damn.
But I think that story is based around him and the very beginnings of it all. That's why it sets up as a prequel story. But I had heard about it, but the idea that it's now coming to Broadway, I think, is incredible. He says beyond that, there are more Stranger Things stories to tell and in the works. It's a bit early to talk about them, but we're deeply involved in everyone. It's very important to us that anything with Stranger Things name on it is of its highest quality and not repetitive. That it has a reason to exist and always blazes its own path. And also it needs to basically just be awesome, or we need to think it's awesome. And there are a lot of what we think are awesome things in the pipeline. Oh, here's this Vecna.
Yes, that's what it was. Vecna. It was based. Yeah, it was kind of the name that the kids gave him. It was. Because it was based on the D&D character.
Yeah. So I think that's fascinating. This kind of reminds me, Stuart, in regards to the John Wick franchise. You create something original, it becomes successful more and more and more. It gets to the point to where you have potential of doing spin-offs, but you're mindful enough to keep Chad Stahelski, the creator, involved, so that when you do create things outside of it, you make sure it's awesome. And that it stays in the vein of what you're kind of creating, so it doesn't feel repetitive in that sense. So I'm, again, while I am thankful that Stranger Things season 5 ends and wraps up this main story, I do think that there is something beneficial to Netflix for keeping the Duffer Brothers not only attached to Netflix so that they can create more original content going forward, but if Stranger Things does continue in some sense of wherever they spin off to or wherever they might go, I think it is pivotal that you keep them involved so that it doesn't feel like just a rehashing or a watered down version of something that we've got before. Because I think if you want to keep Stranger Things around, you have to create something fresh and new.
I definitely agree. Because even when the show, like for me, season 2, when I wasn't like the biggest fan, I still thought like there was potential for like spin-offs, especially with a lot of the things that they had set up. So I could definitely see, like, after this show ends, I could see them continuing to expand in this world, and just what other kind of either supernatural or sci-fi, kind of things exist in this world.
Yeah, and like I wonder too, like if will it be a period piece? Will it be set during a different time period? Are they going to keep this very sort of synth music connected to Stranger Things? Or are we gonna, is it gonna attach to our nostalgia a little bit? I will be curious to see where it goes. It says the Duffers are sticking around for Netflix for the foreseeable future through their production company. They are involved in 2 new series that are coming in 2026: The Burrows and Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen. The former probably shares the most DNA with Stranger Things, according to Max, is because it's about a group of misfits who fight an otherworldly evil. So I would assume that something very bad is going to happen. The setting, however, is a retirement community. Check this out: Alfred Molina, Gina Davis, Bill Pullman, and a host of other screen icon star. That's crazy to me. I love Gina Davis and Alfred Molina already. And you already pulled me into with Bill Pullman and then Alfred Woodard. I mean, my God, that sounds awesome. So that's the Burrows. That's the Burrows. It sounds like. Yeah, I'm sorry. I said something very bad is gonna happen. That's the Burrows. It probably shares the most DNA with Stranger Things because it's a group of misfits who fight an otherworldly evil. So instead of maybe younger kids, we get a retirement community. That's gonna be interesting. Meanwhile, Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen, written by Haley Z. Boston and directed by Baby Reindeer's Weronika Tofilska, follows a bride and groom in a chaotic, anxiety-filled week leading up to their wedding. It dives into the horror and dread that often comes with making a lifelong commitment to someone, something that anyone who's ever been in a relationship can definitely relate to. We don't want to say too much about the story yet, but the title is accurate. Bad things do happen. It says these shows encompass what we feel is at the core of Stranger Things, and that is their stories about ordinary people who encounter the extraordinary. So sounds promising, Stuart. Out of those 2, which one sounds appealing to you?
Both.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that the Burrows one for sure the most. Something very bad is going to happen. It sounds intriguing for sure. But I
feel
think
like
Burrows has my attention.
I still think that's kind of, funny, just because of like how vague it is, and given how we saw things leave off in the previous season. Like literally the world was about to end and they're like, something bad is going to happen. Like, really you're telling me that, huh?
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts. Sorry, my girlfriend just came back real quick. I think she might be headed back out again, but she keeps coming up to my window making these gestures. I won't tell them what they are, but it's making me laugh. But yeah, man, Stranger Things seasons 5 gonna be 8 blockbuster movies. I'm in for a ride, Stuart. Let me know what you guys think. What's your anticipation level for Stranger Things seasons 5? Are you ready for it to end? Is there more for them to explore? What kind of spin-offs are you looking forward to? I definitely want to know in the comment section box below. But Stuart, that will wrap up all of our main topics today, man. Coming in briskly at 2 hours today. Thank you, everybody that certainly stuck around and enjoying the content here today, this week. But Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're about to get into our live viewer question portion of the show. And as always, before I do, let me get some music playing here. It might sound a little distorted at first, but I will be back. Just submit your questions like so. All right. If you ever want to live your question, pretty easy to do. Let me show you how to submit a live your question over here today. So every Saturday afternoon or evening, we will drop a live viewer question post for you guys. Go over to our YouTube channel, as you see right here. scroll down to our community. Hey, what's our community? Where'd it go?
Oh, what the heck? It's not on your screen.
What the hell?
Try refreshing, I guess.
Posts.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, okay.
Posts. Okay, that's weird.
That's new.
Yeah. Go to the posts tab. We posted this 14 hours ago. We got some comments here for you guys today. So let's sort these out here and knock these out today. Doomsday. What's up, Doomsday? Do you find it interesting how the 49th season of Super Sentai Gojuzers celebrates the 50th anniversary of the franchise, whereas the actual 50th anniversary franchise falls on the 51st year of the franchise? It is odd, but it is understandable to me. I think when you take a step back and you recall Pat Ranger versus Lupin Ranger, I think there was some confusion even when the show released, Stuart, if you remember this, where people were like, is this the 46th? Is this the 47th? Is this 46 and 40? Like, well, I can't remember what year it was or what season it really was, but I'm assuming they technically counted Pat Ranger and Lupin Ranger as a quote unquote season in the sense of like a team, like an actual team itself. So while yes, it's only the 49th celebration, it's really 50 teams, I guess, worth celebrating. So maybe that's why they decided to go with it like team wise instead of necessarily year wise. But to be fair, Super Sentai is also like a year-long production. So you also have to remember, while it will begin in 2025, this show technically will not wrap up until 2026. So they can kind of play with it a little bit. So I think the idea of the seasons being so long, Pat Ranger and Lupin Ranger being considered two Super Sentai teams, maybe they felt they could play around with this being the 50th anniversary. What do you think, Stuart? Am I tripping, or does this not make sense? They should hold true to it, Stuart.
Like you said, production for Super Sentai is really challenging, especially when you're trying to produce a new series every year. So I think it's really just a production things, like they can't schedule it the way they want it to. Because I know that the same thing happened with Gokaiger, because if I remember correctly, definitely in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Gokaiger came out on the 36th anniversary technically, and not the 35th anniversary. But again, chat room, correct me if I'm wrong. That's just from what I hear. So I think it is just a scheduling thing. I think it's just hard to plan for a series to premiere like on the actual anniversary date.
That could be a possibility too. I didn't even necessarily think about that. But you might be right there. He also says, do you personally think that Connor is a very mid Red Ranger, or do you think that he's just severely overlooked by Tommy and Trent?
I would go with Connor. That's
Dino Thunder.
Dino Thunder. Oh! I freaking love Connor. No, he's a twat that you want to punch in the face during the first episode, but he grows on you. That's what I love about him. He's a character that like actually develops and becomes like a better person by the time the show ends. I think for that type of show where it's a high school Power Ranger show and the characters act more like actual high schoolers and less like the goody two shoes that you know from the original series, I thought he was a perfect Red Ranger for that type of show.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't heard the term twat in forever, so that made me chuckle. I almost spit out my coffee. Isn't it funny that the only time when villains are nice is when they're waiting for Power Rangers to do their entire morph and roll call? Yeah, man, I've seen a couple of really great fan videos of like villains patiently waiting for Rangers to get through their entire roll call and morph sequence and stuff. Like, yeah, why aren't you just attacking them? I will say the perfect one that I thought did a really great job of addressing that was Super Sentai. In Super Sentai, I think it was Tokuger, that whenever that they would get ready to morph, there would be a train track that would come in front of them, and a train would come through. So it would knock the enemies back if they tried to kind of rush them. So I was always under the impression like they can't be touched because there's a track around them while they're morphing and stuff. That I felt like that's like the only show that I've ever seen that kind of. I don't know if they addressed it because of that, but it gave like an in-world explanation for it, and I thought it was really brilliant.
Yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. I remember they did joke about that in Dragon Ball Super because they had like the magical girl transformation sequence going on, and I think it was Android 17 who just like kind of interrupts it, and then you just have everyone like, you know, giving him crap for that, even people who aren't even on their team just being like, hey, you can't do that, you can't interrupt a transformation sequence.
That's really funny, man. But yeah, good questions, Doomsday. Thank you so much. But yeah, it is pretty funny. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Remember how Bulk and Skull helped save the Rangers in the finale for In Space? Yeah, I've always thought that was really cool. I think it's only fair that they are promoted to Secret Keepers for the Rangers after all these years, right? To our team Imaginatrix, they are promoted to Secret Keepers for the Rangers. Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, after that, yeah, because I guess that's really like the last time we see Bulk and Skull in that regards. But when we do see them pop up in other series, they don't know who the Power Rangers are, so it's not like they've been brought into the fold since then or anything like that. But had In Space continued, or had they Bulk and Skull continued in that capacity, that's almost like honorary members without being able to transform but knowing their secret, you know what I mean? Which era has the best Sentai? Oh my god. Showa, Heisei, if I'm pronouncing that right, or Reiwa. To be fair, I have not seen all of the Sentai to make an accurate judgment on that. But I would say it's got to be between Heisei and Reiwa. And while I still haven't watched all of Reiwa yet, I gotta say, I've been thoroughly impressed with, like, outside of Zenkaiger, I feel like what I have watched from the Reiwa era has been pretty damn impressive to me. Pretty damn impressive. But there have been there's gold in the Heisei era for sure, and I'm probably butchering that pronunciation. But especially considering the fact that during that period we got a lot of great Power Rangers series out of it. I just don't know if I recall a lot of the stuff that, like, Super Sentai versions of a lot of those shows, because I do have my favorite Heisei series for sure.
I think mine would definitely go to the Heisei era because of Q Ranger, because I just love that series so much, and I'm glad they used at least they used the Zords from that show in Cosmic Fury. I am sad that show never got adapted into Power Rangers. I think it would have been really cool, but yeah, I think because of that season, yeah, I'm going to say Heisei.
Yeah, Heisei. I mean, it's got so many legendary shows. It's such a big time period. But, you know, Reiwa has a way to go. But, I mean, Kara Major was great. I thought Don Brothers, from what I watched, was really great. I've heard awesome things about King Osier. People have been really enjoying Boon Boomger so far. And now we got Ghost User. So I think they're probably like 3 for 5, maybe 3.5 for 5. I have this series I haven't necessarily finished. But let me see. Hold on one moment. I'm going to put in the other series during that period. I'm sure there's a ton of them, though. Yeah, I mean, we're talking like 1990 to 2013. Or later than that. 2018, excuse me. No, even later than that. Real Soldier. So 2020. So we're talking, what's that, 30 years? Yeah, Heisei has got to be up there as the best right now, but Reiwa is definitely having a great start to it for sure. But it's definitely Heisei, if I'm pronouncing that right again. Since it's Black History Month, who's your favorite African American Ranger of all time? Personally, I go for Zach, Ethan, TJ, Noah, Tanya, and Aisha. Oh man.
I think I got to give it to Scott Truman from Power Rangers RPM.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let's see here. God damn, there's so many.
Although I also got to give honorable mention to TJ as being the first Black Ranger, or the first red Black Ranger is what I meant to say, But yeah, Scott, just because I freaking love RPM.
Just looking at everybody on here. Yeah, shout out to TJ for sure. Shout out to TJ. I'm trying to think if TJ was my favorite though. It's got to be Zach. It's got to be Zach for me. Zach is definitely my favorite. Honorable mentions would definitely be TJ. And I'm going to give honorable mention also to Shelby from Dino Charge. I really love Shelby as the Pink Ranger in Dino Charge. She's honestly my favorite. And shout out to Devin too, if I want to go a little bit more recent. But yeah, Zach's got to be my favorite for sure. I would agree with you, Blossom. Peg C. From the first trailers of Goes User, what are your thoughts on the show? Trailer looks fire to me. I am fascinated in regards to all the big Zord battles that we see, or the Zord action. The introduction to the characters, I think, look really good. Now that I think it was last week, Stuart, I don't know if you were here when we talked about the Toku Nation stuff. Were you here? Was that 2 weeks ago? Or maybe it was last week when I talked about the breakdown of the characters.
I don't
miss that breakdown.
I think I missed it. Yeah.
They're all really fascinating. They all seem like they're all outcasts somehow, all like being shunned from whatever their group was, or being outcast from whatever their group was, and sort of finding their home as part of this team. So they all have an interesting past, to certainly say the least. But from the trailer alone, really has me fascinated. I will be curious to see a little bit more of it. I'll have to definitely check out this Zero. Do you guys want me to review the show? I'm curious if I should review it or not, Stuart. My challenge is just making it consistent, if anything. I think my biggest challenge is I try and get the Super Sentai stuff out so early, but I find myself always falling behind and dropping it like later in the week. But maybe I should just drop it later in the week instead of trying to get it out as like the first one. Or maybe I shouldn't just pressure myself. Like Super Sentai series will just drop when it drops, y'all. Instead of feeling like I have to have a commitment for Super Sentai, because I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself, especially with it being such a long show. Being able to be consistent for like 49 weeks is really freaking difficult, bro.
I'd say, like, what about just reviewing like kind of the first episode, and then just reviewing episodes like that stand out, so you don't have to like kind of pressure every week, because a lot of filler in Super Sentai. What can you really say about an episode where it's like, oh, Tommy cheated on his math homework and now his math homework has come to life because of Lord Zed,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see here. So yeah, maybe I'll review it. I'll check out episode 0 though. Peg C, if instead of Rocky, Adam, and Aisha didn't replace Jason, Zach, and Trini, who would have you wanted it to be? Replacement Rangers for Jason, Zach, and Trini. I don't know.
Oh, like someone from Mighty Morphin that was already established?
Yeah, but I don't even. But they didn't really. I'm trying to think who was established before we even got Jason, Zach, before we even got Rocky, Adam, and Aisha.
There was oh man, I totally forgot his name, but there was like one character that was like kind of a one-off friend of the group, and he was introduced as like kind of a red herring when they were introducing Tommy as the White Ranger. So I guess he would technically be a character, you could say. For me, of course, I got to go with my boys Bulk and Skull. Like I think the two of them would have been funny as Power Rangers. I don't know if I would have wanted them taking up like the colors that were already there. I kind of would have preferred if they went with their comic book Power Ranger kind of fantasy outfits, where I think Bulk is like the oh man, I can't remember. I want to say Bulk was like purple, and then Skull was orange. Can't remember. Hang on, this will take me 2 seconds. Just want to look up.
I don't know if Billy had any like crushes or anything like that, or if there were anybody's crushes that had gotten introduced before Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. Maybe somebody's crush joining the team would have been pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I was right. So Bulk was kind of a purple. I think it's supposed to be a warthog Power Ranger motif, and then Skull was orange, and I can't tell. It almost looks like a pterodactyl, but it can't be that because Kimberly's the pterodactyl.
Yeah, they could have just been like Timon and Pumbaa's creatures.
That would have been perfect. Oh my God, Skull should have been a meerkat. Yes.
Yeah, meerkat sword would have been great. Blossom says Billy did have crushes, dude. Yeah, I'm sure he did have crushes. Maybe one of Billy's crushes would have been pretty fun to add as a supporting character. I just didn't know any other characters that had a spotlight episode or something like that prior to Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. I'd have to go back and check. Would you like to see a crossover movie with Kamen Rider versus Ultraman versus Super Sentai like they did with Kamen Rider versus Super Sentai? Yeah, absolutely. I think Ultraman is not Toei though. I think that's I think it's another production company. I just can't remember off the top of my head, even though they're all technically like tokusatsu elements. I don't think I think Ultraman is a different production company, but I would love to see it. I really would love to see it, especially in Ultraman and Super Sentai. I definitely would love to see an Ultraman and Super Sentai combination.
Love to see like Ultraman and like a Megazord fighting side by side, and then just so many fun things you could do with that premise.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here, what else we got. Marky Parko, damn it, Adam. Legacy of Static Shock and Miles Morales. Static Shock, featuring a black teenager superhero, Virgil Harkins, left a lasting impact on television by showcasing the lead character of color and addressing important social issues, paving the way for future representation. The Miles Morales Spider-Verse films, with their stunning animation and focus on biracial Spider-Mans, have broadened the superhero genre and resonated with diverse audiences throughout their exploration of identity and belonging. Can these newer films achieve the same groundbreaking social impact as Static Shock, which debuted during the time of even greater representational scarcity? And how will their legacies be measured in terms of long-time cultural influence?
Well, one thing I can say for sure about Miles Morales, Spider-Man, like his movies specifically, those are going to go down in history as some of the best animated films ever made.
Yeah, I would agree. Static Shock definitely had his own impact. You know, I think somebody that could have an impact, if handled right, and I am curious to see how James Gunn will handle this, because unfortunately his movie came out towards the tail end of the DCEU, and that's Blue Beetle. I'm still a fan of the Blue Beetle movie. I don't think it's a great film, but I think it's a really enjoyable sort of popcorn flick. I really enjoy Jolo Maraduena as Jaime Reyes. I think the humor in there is really stellar. The special effects for the Blue Beetle really work for me, and I'm a fan of his family. Like, his family is really fun to me, especially Grandma, who turns out to be like this rebel at the end, which I think was absolutely hilarious. I just think that there's elements of Blue Beetle. I think that we heard rumors of there being maybe an animated series for Blue Beetle. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know what the further development is. If Jolo will be Blue Beetle again in some form, James Gunn hasn't really talked about it at all. But I do think Blue Beetle could have be another great representation of diversity and representation as from a character's point of view. I don't know if it's a missed opportunity already yet, or if there's still room for him to grow. Static Shock, I don't necessarily know there's a part of me that says I don't know if he was on the level of Miles Morales literally has 2 huge freaking animated films. You know what I'm saying? Like, that overshadow impact alone from what Static Shock did, even though I think Static Shock is very generational, like over time it's had that kind of impact. I think Blue Beetle can be something along the levels of Static Shock if done really well. So that would be my next bet in regards to it. So I still think that there's hope.
Yeah, definitely.
Marcia says those aren't rumors, it's factual that we're getting a Blue Beetle animated series. I mean, I have heard it, it's just that I haven't heard anything new in a long time, so I'm just kind of curious if it's still in the plans or in the works or not. That's all. Marcelino, did you ever see the sequel to Megamind titled Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate on Peacock, aka Nightmare Fuel?
I only heard that it was one of the worst sequels ever made.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard it. I hadn't seen it before, so I didn't know. Yeah, I've heard of Megamind, but I didn't even know that there was a sequel to it. But yeah, maybe that's a reason why I haven't heard about the sequel.
I really liked the first Megamind movie. It was it definitely had its charm.
Who was the better villain, Malcolm Merlyn or Prometheus?
Ooh,
man,
both great villains.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'll let you answer.
I think Prometheus was ruthless. I think Prometheus was a great villain. But if I got to talk about the better villain, it's got to be Malcolm Merlyn to me. I think longevity alone of his impact into people's storylines, even later in the seasons of Arrow, especially with Thea Queen having been attached to her, and plus I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but he was always so damn good as Malcolm Merlyn. He was just one of those guys you just didn't know who to trust. I think he had great swerves, the back and forth, could you trust him, could you not trust him sort of thing. I think longevity and being able to be relevant and still good for a long period of time says a lot about a villain. And I think for me, I'm gonna go that route. I say Malcolm Merlyn is the better villain. But that's tough, man. That's tough.
Yeah, I think you've won me over. I'm going with Malcolm Merlyn because okay. Oh, John Barrowman. Yeah, because you can't go wrong with John Barrowman.
Yeah,
it's the fact that, like, you know, I'm used to seeing this guy playing likable characters, like he was Captain Jack in Doctor Who. So it was so weird seeing him play a villain and then play that villain so good. And then the other thing too is, unlike Damien Dark, who we get like later in season 4, who just, to me, Damien Dark didn't fit in very well with Arrow, but when they took that character and they put him into Legends, it felt like he was perfect for that show. I think what's interesting about Malcolm Merlyn is that he worked great as an Arrow villain, but then when he moved to Legends of Tomorrow, he also worked really good in Legends of Tomorrow as well. He was a villain that actually could do both, like, kind of a serious villain role, and then he could play it up for laughs, like in other shows. He like knew just how to adjust the character based on, like, kind of the show that he was in without, like, completely changing the character, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, shout out to Adrian Chase, I believe his name was, who ended up becoming Prometheus. Just ruthless, bro. Just ruthless. I mean, I loved Prometheus as a villain for sure. So shout out to him too. But yeah, I just think longevity and, like you said, his range going from show to show and still being that ass. I mean, yeah, I really liked Malcolm Merlyn.
I forgot the actor's name that played Prometheus, but I started seeing him in a lot of things after.
Yeah, Josh Segarra.
Oh, Segarra? Josh Segarra?
Uh-huh.
Like, now anytime I see him in something, so even if it's like a comedy like Abbott Elementary, I'm like constantly like, ooh, don't trust that guy, don't trust that guy. You know, She-Hulk, I kept thinking, he's gonna be a secret bad guy, he's too nice in this show. There's no way. Even in Scream 6, like, I'm like, it wouldn't make sense, but I just don't trust that actor, he's clearly the killer.
yeah, he's definitely made a name for himself for sure. I know how Disney can continue doing live action while also making them feel unique unique and less repetitive. They should just adapt the Twisted Tale book series and turn them into movies. If you don't know what I'm talking about, A Twisted Tale is a young adult anthology book series that focuses on what-if scenarios on classic Disney and Pixar films. Like, what if Jafar got the lamp earlier? Which lets him become a dictator, and Jasmine and Aladdin start a resistance movement to overthrow him. What if Mulan's lover died in battle, which leads her to trek through hell to bring back his soul before sunset? Not only that, but they also add more layers and backstory to certain characters. Like, what if Hercules decided to become a Greek god, and Megan has to go on a quest to become a Greek god herself to be with him? But the task is that she has to rescue and forgive her ex-boyfriend who left her for another woman. What if the Blue Fairy wasn't supposed to help Pinocchio, where he explored the Blue Fairy's backstory, learning her name is Chiara, if I'm pronouncing that right, and that she has a sister known as the Scarlet Fairy who holds a near-century-old grudge and opposes her transgression, and they have to settle things with a bet. These characters are in the public domain. Disney should take advantage of this. So how can Disney continue to do their live action while making them feel unique and less repetitive? I kind of dig that idea, honestly. I really do.
Yeah.
I would be completely down for that, honestly. That sounds like it's pretty fun, and it sounds like it would be better than What If Season 3, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which, mind you, I still have not finished What If Season 3, but I got to tell you, have you, Stuart?
I have, yeah.
I got to tell you, man, I'm down to my last 2 episodes. I am not caring for this season. I am not caring for this season.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the show. I mean, not to say that seasons 1 and season 2 were blockbusters, but they were hella much more enjoyable than this season was. I don't know the route in which they went storytelling wise. Like, elements in here that were fascinating, like the Riri Williams story one with Mysterio, I thought was really fascinating. They had I don't think the Howard the Duck one was as bad as people were making it out to be.
I got laughs out of that.
Yeah, I got laughs out of it. But the Shang-Chi one was interesting from a fight perspective, and just the reveal of who the villain was when it comes to like the hood. Interesting aspects, but I don't know. It just fell off to me, season 3. I don't know if I was missing the interconnected story a little bit in regards to what I thought seasons 1 and 2 did relatively well. Like when we got towards the later episodes of What If Season 3, I think that's when they kind of started focusing on like, hey, let's have an interconnected story, but it seemed like they saved it for a little bit too late by the time we got to the end of the season itself. But some of the decisions of stories were just not that fun to me. Yeah, I it's fascinating too, Stuart, because I do remember that they changed the showrunner for What If Season 3, or the head of production for What If Season 3, and I believe it's the same guy that's now scheduled to do X-Men 97 Season 2. And I'm not going to lie, I am a little worried now. Because I remember hearing that they were rewriting a lot of Beau DeMayo scripts from Season 2 when this guy came on board. And now making X-Men 97 a little bit different, or changing some things up. So now I'm a little bit concerned for season 2. I'm not gonna lie, Stuart, because if it's true, I'm gonna have to look it up again. But if it's true that What If Season 3 director or whoever's in charge of it is now the same person that's in charge of X-Men 97, I am a little concerned, Stuart.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. This was not my favorite season. Someone, I can't remember, but there was a review I saw where someone was kind of pointing out the biggest issue with this season is most of the characters that we got. Story-wise, you could have, for a lot of the characters, like easily replaced them with any character from the MCU, and you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference, because it's more of like the plot drives the character, is driving the characters this seasons rather than the characters driving the plot for the most part. And it even got to the point where it's like they didn't even bother And this would be fine if this had been kind of like a thing that was established before that could happen, but this kind of comes out of nowhere because for the longest time, we're led to believe that the What If series, is based on what if this happened, literally like in the title, so it's basically supposed to be the MCU timeline, just with one difference that completely changes it and causes a new universe, right? But then you get to episodes where they don't even bother explaining it, which is like the Old West setting, the fact that, the previous season we had a whole setting that was in like medieval Earth, but you still had modern characters, and they were able to explain how that universe was created. It's weird that they did that with something as unique of a setting as that, but they aren't doing that with the Old West setting. They're just kind of like, screw it. Yeah, anything can happen now. And it's just, I feel like if that had been set up before, or if that was my only issue with this season, I probably wouldn't even think twice about it. But I think it just kind of, that mixed with all the other issues I kind of had this season, it kind of just made that issue I had with that episode stand out a lot more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. At the time, head writer AC Bradley revealed that the second season of the What If series was her final project at Marvel Studios, with series story editor Matthew Chauncey taking over as head writer for the season for series 3. Series director Brian Andrews returned, but the writer, as far as story editor, and Matthew Chauncey is taking over as head writer for the season. So Matthew Chauncey was the change to season 3. Who is writing X-Men 97 season 2? Let's see. So it still has Marvel reportedly rewriting most of X-Men 97 season 2 following Bo DeMayo. I'm trying to see if it says who the writer is. I don't want to give any false information. Snyder further notes that Matthew Chauncey, who is hired to write X-Men 97 season 3, will most likely oversee the rewrites for season 2. Stuart, I am worried.
Yeah.
I am worried. Oh my God.
I'll say this. I, for the most part, liked the way he wrote Storm in this series, which you'll get to in the next 2 episodes. So at least I don't expect him to butcher any of the characters at the very least. I'm kind of with you. I'm worried more than anything else that X-Men 97 season 2 is going to be underwhelming. I don't think it's gonna. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be bad per se. But if this season of What If is any indication, it's just going to be underwhelming.
Yeah, that's a little bit on a tangent, but Marcelino brought up the what if concepts. But as far as what if for Disney's live action stuff, I think that would be fun. I don't know if they would do it on a big screen as far as movie wise goes, but as far as if they want to do live action remakes of certain Disney stuff on a series perspective, yeah, I would be down for a Twisted Tale sort of aspect. I think that'd be really fun. He also says when it comes to Clayface in Sergeant GI or GI whatever the Sergeant movie, a Sergeant Rock movie, you guys have defended them since the writers have a vision, and that with other films, people really want to see The Authority, Brave and the Bold, and Titans. People should be patient, and that the writers shouldn't be so rushed. Instead of giving 5 mediocre films for several years, we get great films for every few years. However, when does the opposite happen? When do you prefer a bunch of mediocre movies because you don't want to wait so long for the next film? To give an example, that's exactly what's going on with the Spawn fandom. Spawn fans want a new movie so bad that they don't care about the quality. The movie could have the worst writing and poorly edited, and yet Spawn fans say they will still love it because they're not getting a Spawn movie is worse than waiting for long for a Spawn movie. And a bad Spawn movie gives something fans to talk about.
It's funny because with this, if I'm taking the question super direct and going when is quantity better than quality in terms of like timing. I'm going to say usually never. However, with that being said, some of the times, you know, you'll hear something about, oh, you know, it's just taking us forever to write this because we want it to be perfect. And that tends to be a lie a lot of times. Most of the time is, you know, because of behind the scenes drama going on. Other times it's maybe because the person has other projects that they're working on and they want this to be their focus when they're working on it. They want to only focus on it. You know, so it's like, just because I say that it's better to take your time for quality, that doesn't necessarily mean that when they say that's what they're doing, that's what they're doing. So, you know, if it comes to something like that, that's when it's like, no, just give me someone else to write it. Then I'll take something rushed, something rushed and soon rather than something rushed, but we still have to wait a long time for. Think of it like the Duke Nukem Forever video game. That game came out, took like 13 years to come out, and when it finally did, it was one of the most incomplete like games I've ever played, which is just so ironic. It felt like a game that was made like in less than a year.
As far as my answer for this, yeah, I would say never.
Yeah,
never. I mean, look, guys, if you want a Spawn movie with a worse writing and poorly edited, but you just want a Spawn movie, this is John Leguizamo, Michael J. White Spawn movie for you guys out there already, if that's what you want. You know, people literally just complained about the MCU providing quality over quantity or quantity over quality, and they're ripping Marvel Studios right now. So the idea of wanting something now just to have it, no, I would never defend that. I don't. Why would you want a bad movie? Because my thing is like, if just because you want something, you want it. We're so reactionary these days. Like we just want, I want it now sort of mentality. But the idea of wanting something now could really harm you for years to come, in the sense of if the movie is so bad, they may never do another Spawn movie or any other movie like that ever again for like another 10, 15, 20 years down the road. I mean, when's the last time we had a Spawn movie, Stuart? Nobody probably wanted to touch that Spawn movie for like the longest time because of how bad that it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you want like mediocre Spawn movies, I'm sure there's some B-level, C-level Spawn adaptive sort of stuff out there somewhere. Go watch some Spawn fan films or something like that. So I would never put over mediocre, hey, we just want something to have it now sort of thing instead of mentality. I would say let's learn some patience. Let's let these people cook and allow them to put something together. Now, look, we can be mad if we give them all this time and Todd McFarlane still gives us a crap movie. Waiting all this time doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great movie. But I do think in terms of like Clayface, and if the Sergeant Rock's stuff tends to be good, you know, those are things that script wise James Gunn has looked at and is like, these scripts are so good and well complete, we have to make these movies. Like it would almost be a crime to have that great of a script or that good of a script and not do anything with it. So I'd much rather have somebody in charge that knows a good script when they see it, allows that to go into production, and if something is still having missing pieces and not doing not living up to the standard that you wanted to live up to, then yeah, take your time and just wait, regardless of how much outside pressure you might get from other people. Because if you make a movie wrong, especially in the position that DCEU literally just gave y'all a bunch of mediocre movies, and it's on the verge of collapse right now, to where you may not, like, if James Gunn's movies are not good, guys, you may not get DCU movies for a long time. It may be really hard for people to want to sit down and make a movie or even go to the movie theaters to see it. So wanting mediocrity can really hurt a brand and a franchise. And it clearly hurt a lot of DCU movies where people just did not even want to go to the theaters to see them. So no, mediocrity to me, quality over quantity every day of the week.
Yeah.
Crabman, what's up, Crabman? He says, how is it possible that there's not more people here? This channel is lit. Great content, guys. Keep up your hard work and work will pay off. God bless you guys. Thank you so much, Crabman. Thank you so much. I asked myself the same question. Why do we not have more viewers, y'all? I think we bring really great insight to the stuff that we talk about. I think we are very fair-minded in regards to how we view things. You know, one of the things, Stuart, that I think gets lost on this channel, and I think one of the reasons why we don't do better is, and that we've brought this up before, is that negativity unfortunately sells these days. And I think it's about time that content creators start getting back to just being fans of things. Like, there's nothing wrong with watching content and seeing content and having a positive reaction to it first. It doesn't make you a shill. It doesn't make you a corporate entity. It makes you a fan. And if you're a fan of something where you can talk about the things that you love, but also at the hindsight have like the mental capacity to also be fair-minded enough and be critical of the things that you don't like or that you would like to kind of see changed, like, to me, that's what being a fan is. And I just feel like people online have become more, I wouldn't even call them critics as I would opinionators about things, that feel like they have to have sort of this negative reaction or look at things and decipher as to why they don't like something instead of why they like it first. And I think it's really like hindered people's trust in media, people's trust in others' opinions, because of the fact that they tackle things from a negative perspective, besides approaching it from a true fan. And that's loving something first and then having the wherewithal to be fair-minded enough to be critical of something when it calls for it. Am I tripping to think that that's what we should be celebrating from a media standpoint?
Not at all. I think you know what it comes down to, like what I noticed with a lot of people who are like in the more negative side of things, is that it kind of feels like they grew up in the same era of the internet as I did. You know, early 2000s, where you had funny, hilarious parody critics like the Nostalgia Critic and the Angry Video Game Nerd. And, you know, it was like they watched all those people, but didn't notice that they were meant to be parodies. And then they started doing what those guys did back in the day, but doing it for real, you know, losing the parody aspect about it.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think there's also truth to the idea that there are two generations of comic book people. There's a generation of, I grew up a comic book fan first, and I grew up a comic book television movie fan first. And it's also one of those things where I think, for me, as somebody that grew up in a generation that enjoyed comic books first and then prayed to God one day we can get these characters on the live action, and then actually having it happen, like, I don't take these things for granted in that sense. Like, there is still that childhood joy that I get of seeing these characters and these stories from the comics that I read brought to the big screen, where I'm just in awe at where we've come from a cinematic point of view to be able to even put these on screen, right? So I already go into this mindset of having that level of joy, and then I could be critical about what I loved and what I didn't. And I do think that there's also some people that just came up from a television and movie perspective that maybe are a little bit more critical in the sense of how they decipher and have opinions about what it is that they're certainly watching, and not maybe necessarily like, and that's not to say that people that watch TV and movies first haven't then gone on to become comic book fans, but I do think there's a level of appreciation that comic book fans, the readers, have for what they're seeing on the big screen compared to people that grew up in a completely new generation where comic book movies have always been around, and that's what they judge these movies on, is based off of what has always been around. And I just do think that there's a significant difference. Not to say that those people can't be fair-minded, but I do think growing up that way, there is just being part of this new generation of having the meaning of what it means to be a critic about things just completely ass backwards. It's not about going into a movie, oh, well, why didn't I like this movie, or what jumped out at me that I didn't like it. No. I want to hear what you loved about it first. How did it make you feel? What did you take away from it? What were some of the points about it that you loved? And then if there were things you didn't like about it, then tell me those and be fair-minded enough. But it's just crazy to me how negativity and being just, I think, untruthful about things in order to make a buck has really brought down media literacy and how people comprehend the stuff that they're watching. And so thank you, Crabman, for the shout out and the kind words, because I'm like you too. Like, why don't we have more people? Because I do think that we do a pretty fair job of telling it like it is, but coming to it from a positive and fanboy. I don't want to use fanboy, but just from a fan perspective, Stuart. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old school now. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's just an old school mentality, unfortunately.
I wouldn't call it the old school mentality. I would just call it the we're more real mentality. We're not looking to be angry at something. If we watch something we don't like it,
outrage.
Yeah, exactly. We don't tend to get outraged when we see something we dislike. there are definitely earlier earlier times when I was on YouTube, and I was trying to do like my own series, I would definitely I think I would probably to an extent be like kind of the outrage. I never went to as far as like kind of like some YouTube channels will go in terms of like how pissed off they get. Or in terms of like some of the things that they rant about, which are just really dumb to rant about, which is of course, the woke DEI stuff and being like, that's ruining Hollywood. It's like, I never did any of that, thankfully. But, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was like a little bit of that cringe kind of nerd who would get like, who got really mad when he saw Transformers 5 because of how bad it was. I like knowing though that even though that was like, as cringe as I could be, at least I never got to the point where like some of the YouTubers are now, where they go way too far with how like again, the things they criticize are what bug me more than like what they're actually, more than the fact that they're actually criticizing something or how angry they are about it. It's just like specifically what they're constantly complaining about. And then yeah, so I'm glad I never went that far, and I'm glad that on top of that I grew out of that over time. Like and it's not to say that I won't watch something that'll disappoint me and I'll be like, this was pretty bad, but I won't get like angry about it. I can go into like if Superman, which is the movie I'm probably the most hyped for, if this movie ends up being a movie I don't like, will I be disappointed? Yes. But I am not going to go on a 3-hour rant video and talk about how James Gunn just completely sabotaged the DC universe. And it's clear that he was hired by Kevin Feige to take up this job. And, I won't go on any conspiracies about, how woke is ruining the industry.
To be fair, Transformers: The Last Night was cringe.
It was terrible.
I completely understand, and then that's another
how
thing
pissed
too.
I got is like what I look back on, and I'm like, it's cringe that I was that mad at this movie.
I mean, if it's bad, we'll tell you how bad it is. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, sometimes it's just nitpicking stuff, like the idea of seeing a 2-second clip of something, and then basing it off of what the whole movie is going to be like. Like it's not fair to the people that work for in front of the camera, behind the camera, and we are a big believer in letting the final product speak for. But yeah,
final thing I just want to say about the matter is that one thing I liked about our review when we did the Aqualight is there were problems that we had with it, but I think that all of us kind of wanted to wait to see how it all played out before like actually talking about like a lot of the big issues that we had. I think like I always kind of like address them as concerns that I have going forward with the show, what I think like it could mean, and I wouldn't like if it went that direction, but I was always sure not to say for sure that's what it's going to be. Whereas like you get like a YouTube channels like Geeks and Gamers and Star Wars Theories who will watch like the first episode and then immediately think that they know exactly where the rest of the series is going and then start to complain about it. Basically, the way they complain about it, it'd be like if they watched a Phantom Menace, saw that Anakin wasn't Darth Vader, and then called that a plot hole. You know, that's the way they review The Acolyte.
Yeah, it's pretty atrocious, man. It's just bad faith stuff out there. A lot of bad faith stuff out there. So whoever you watch, whether it be this channel or other ones, just make sure you find just good faith actors out there. You know what I'm saying? That people that are, you know, speaking the truth to you and not just trying to make a buck and become a shill to YouTube in order to make some money. So my friends call me Joseph. So yeah, Marcelino, just to answer your question, quality over quantity for me, at least, always. My friends call me Joseph. Superman's unique vision. How will James Gunn take on Superman's differ from past versions? And what will be the film's overall tone? Lighthearted, adventurous versus serious, dramatic. You know, he has mentioned that it is humorous, but it's a rather serious story from what I've heard. So it might be a mixture of the two. I think James Gunn is more than capable of being able to have that balance, not necessarily either or, but I think there will be some serious and dramatic tones to it while also being an adventurous film with lighthearted moments. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I would definitely expect a comedy in this, like a couple of laughs, but I wouldn't expect it to be a comedy in the same vein as Guardians of the Galaxy or the Suicide Squad. I would definitely hope that he's, you know, not doing his usual thing with a movie like Superman and kind of giving it a different feel, you know? Like I like to think this is the movie where James Gunn is definitely going out of his comfort zone for when it comes to making this. Like, he's trying to make something you know, different than what he's done before, and that's why, like, it wouldn't worry me, but it also wouldn't surprise me too if some of the rumors with the poor received test screenings weren't, if they were somewhat accurate. And again, I wouldn't be worried because it probably just means that he needs to, you know, rework a couple of things, you know, maybe re-edit it a bit. But I think it could just come down to this is his first time making a movie that isn't like a full-on comedy, and so therefore he may have had some ideas that didn't work out as well as it did in his head.
And I will say also, I mean, looking back at the other Superman films, this already alone feels like it's going to be significantly different, right? Like, if you want to talk about the idea of what makes this even more unique, I mean, let's look at, you know, you've had the Richard Donner Superman, and then you've had, you know, then you had 3 and 4, which were just atrocious films. But you then look at Man of Steel or Superman Returns, which Superman Returns felt like a Richard Donner Superman to me, right? So you're talking about the idea of uniqueness. Superman Returns didn't feel that unique to me. I mean, it even had like the same style of Daily Planet and same clothing as like the Richard Donner, almost like a taking place in the same period piece, if you will, or same period timeline. Then you look at Man of Steel, which was much darker and had a much more grounded sort of perspective. This feels different than any of those. You know, we're going to be going into a world where it's already populated with superheroes. We never seen a Superman movie where we're thrusted into a world where he has other superheroes sort of already established around him. It looks like, I don't want to say more fantastical elements or anything like that, but you know, there'd be supervillains and superheroes kind of all around. This doesn't feel like a period piece. It still feels like a modern day take on Superman still, but maybe not necessarily as dark and gritty and grounded, like different maybe morals or different perspectives to kind of go for. So I think James Gunn's Superman, I mean, and we got Crypto too, right? So that alone adds even more lighthearted elements that we have seen in some of the past stuff from Superman Returns or Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. So I think in and of itself, it's already doing that work. DC's revival. Can Gunn and Safran revitalize the DC brand and build a cohesive cinematic universe compared to Marvel's, with a Superman movie serving as a critical test? I personally think so. I think they already have a unique take on it, in the sense of these movies not necessarily being connected. So like it's not so much like you see Superman, then you have to see Supergirl because that story continues into there. He's definitely making a lot of standalone films that are interconnected because it's part of this much bigger universe. So he's explained this before in some of the interviews that it's not so much a big bad that's the focus that all these movies are building up to, like the first couple of phases of the MCU, right? I'm sure there will be a big crossover event, or at least a big tentpole movie that will then include a lot of these characters. But I think his mindset on how he builds his cinematic universe will still be cohesive, but it'll be built up more along, I think, on standalone episodes, standalone movies.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Because he does, the way he talks about it is that he does think it does sound like the individual movie is really like the bigger priority than setting up the overarching villain for the whole thing. So I think that like even if there are connective tissues, it's not going to be required viewing in order to watch it. I think the only time there might be anything like that is when we actually do get to that big climactic movie, and in which case I hope they go the route of the first Avengers movie, where I think to this day you could just watch the first Avengers movie without any context of the movies that came before, and I think it makes perfect sense on its own. So I think that if they treat the Justice League movies like that, I think it'll be just fine. You won't have any issues with audiences being confused or anything like that.
I am curious if he'll have post-credit scenes though that might connect to a bigger overall story. So I will be curious to see how he handles post-credit scenes for this. Audience reception. Will audiences embrace this new DC vision, or they experience superhero fatigue after mixed reactions to DC films? Will the perceived mistreatment of Henry Cavill's Superman impact this? If you're a Snyder bro, yes. I will say I do think the separation of time between DC movies have certainly helped. I do think there's a lot of momentum behind DC's Superman. I think people understand that just the casual viewers alone, based off of how many views the YouTube trailer has gotten, how anticipated Superman has turned out to be, I have a feeling that the general audience is aware that if we're getting a new Superman movie, this is the kickoff to something new. Mm-hmm. And I think they are ready to kind of see what that new vision is. So I do think that they have the attention of people. And I think they will, at least I think they'll embrace Superman. We'll see how it's received though, but I do think people are ready for a new DC vision at this point.
Yeah, and I think at the very least, even if people don't know that it's the start of a whole new universe, I think they'll go into it assuming that, at the very least, it's like the Batman. It's not the same Henry Cavill Superman, just like how the Batman wasn't the same Ben Affleck Batman. I think they'll go into it, expecting a fun Superman movie, and then if it delivers, they'll see, oh, this is a part of the bigger universe, and I think it'll add to even more hype around other upcoming DC projects in the future.
Talent acquisition. Can the new DC universe attract and retain top-tier talent in front of and behind the camera, which is crucial for its long-term success? Will audiences be willing to give DC another chance after years of underwhelming films? Superman's got to be good. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's got to be great, but it's got to be an enjoyable good. Well, it might need to be great. I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be $1 billion great, but it needs to be I think at least like 700 million great, if that's a difference, I don't know. A good is maybe 400 million. So I think there's a level of great that this movie has to be in order for people to be able to give DC another chance. It's got to be fresh too. It's got to feel different from what they watched before. But do you think they can attract top tier talent?
Yes, actually. I think that the fact alone that they're not rushing projects is something that'll get a lot more writers interested in joining the DC universe. You honestly may even have some people that originally were going to work for Marvel, but ended up getting replaced because they couldn't work under the conditions, and they may end up moving to DC because James Gunn knows how to work with those writers a little better. But we'll have to wait and see in that area. Oh, I think you're muted.
Power of the Morphin Grid. The underrated legacy of Rocky DeSantos, from replacement to redemption. Rocky DeSantos, the second Mighty Morphin Red Ranger and later the Blue Zeo Ranger, often remains underrated despite his significant contributions to the Power Rangers. His initial introduction as a Red Ranger was challenging, stepping into the shoes and the t-shirts of beloved character, and often overshadowed by Tommy's leadership. Episodes like Rocky Just Wants to Have Fun and Mondo's Last Stand, while highlighting his struggles with responsibility and insecurities, didn't initially portray him as the strong, independent hero he was capable of becoming. His transition to the Blue Zeo Ranger and the return of Jason as the Gold Ranger further complicated his position, exacerbating his feelings of inadequacy. However, his reconciliation with Jason marked a turning point, signifying his eventual acceptance within the Ranger family. Rocky's appearance in Dimensions in Danger and crucially Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always finally gave him the recognition he deserved. His return as the Red Ranger in Once and Always finally gave him his moment to shine, including the pivotal scene of him saving a woman falling from a building, coupled with the revelation of his career as a firefighter, solidifying his image as a dedicated hero both in and out of the suit. Rocky's journey is a testament to perseverance and finding one's place. His initial struggles with insecurity and recognition ultimately paved the way for his triumphant return. Once and Always showcased Rocky not as a replacement, but as an integral part of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers legacy. He honored Jason's legacy while forging his own path, proving that true heroism lies in making a difference. His story inspires us, reminding us that even those who initially struggle can find their moment to shine. Considering his journey from a hesitant replacement to a celebrated hero, one wonders what other overlooked Power Rangers deserve similar recognition for their contributions to the team and the broader Power Rangers universe.
Ooh.
That was great, though. Thank you so much for that. Power of the Morphin Grid.
It was, which is almost why I want to kind of just steal your answer, go Rocky for the end of that question, because it's like, yeah, you brought up good points, and yeah, the overall fact that you go from, you end up becoming like one of the few Red Rangers to like not become like an actual leader of the team. Like I can see, I don't know what I would do as my answer if I'm not going with Rocky.
Yeah, I can think of one. I was thinking of maybe the Pink Ranger from Lost Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
replaced, but I'm sure there's probably something to be said about that.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe. I mean, the first Ranger to like literally die on screen.
Yeah, but I guess like overlooked Power Ranger deserves a similar recognition for their contributions to the team and brought it. Yeah, maybe I'll have to go back and watch Lost Galaxy though to give a fair answer to that. The most talented man in the world, the Crow. Oh my god, I forgot that this movie even released, Stuart.
Oh yeah, the new Crow movie. I haven't seen it, but I've been hearing not good things about it, which is too bad because I think wasn't it like my honorable mention when we were talking about our most anticipated movies?
I don't think so. I think you dodged a bullet there, Stuart.
Okay, good.
I don't think it was though. The 2024 Crow reboot tragically underscores the risk of revisiting films steeped in tragedy, especially given the original connection to Brandon Lee's death. Michael Massey, who played Fun Boy and inadvertently caused Lee's death with a pop gun, was deeply traumatized, never watching the film and taking time away from acting. Previous reboot attempts saw numerous actors like Hiddleston, James McAvoy, and Jason Momoa decline involvement, seemingly wary of tarnishing Lee's legacy. This latest failure, after so many failed attempts, reinforces the idea of some stories, particularly those born of sorrow, should remain untouched. Does Hollywood continue pursuit of The Crow demonstrate a lack of respect of Lee's memory and the film's tragic history? I don't know if I view it as a lack of respect, Stuart, so much as we should just stay away from these movies. And I think it's because there's a lot of sorrow, there's a lot of grief still behind it. It was tragic, and I just think that you have fans of these of this stuff, not necessarily cult followings, but just the idea that they themselves solidify themselves in like this really weird place of untouchable movies, you know, that I just don't think it can be done. And so I say I don't want to see any more Crow remakes. I really don't. I mean, maybe 20, 30 years from now, I don't know, when the people that feel some type of way about Brandon Lee aren't around to care as much anymore, then maybe you can. But I just say stay away. I just say stay away. Do you look at it as a lack of does it demonstrate a lack of respect for his memory and the film's tragic history, or as I don't see it that way?
I don't see it that way either. And I don't even know if I would say stay away from it, just because, like, you know, a tragic thing happened on a set like years ago. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not trying to brush it off like it was just, oh, it's just one accident. It's like, no, it was actually a really big deal, something that shouldn't have happened. But I don't know if I would use that as like an excuse of like not, or to just stay away from the Crow like altogether. Yeah, I think that if there were, like, again, I haven't seen this new Crow movie, but I think that if it isn't a good movie, if there were like issues with it, I don't think it just
like those are the reasons.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it existing is the
you.
reason, or it being disrespectful is the reason.
I get you. Like there's a possibility of still making a great Crow movie. This one just wasn't it.
Exactly. The only unless I see this movie and they directly look at the camera and go, we're making this to disrespect Brandon Lee, then it's like, okay, well, I just take back everything I said.
I get you. That makes sense. Jessica Fryman, would you like to see Miles Morales or Spider-Man Gwen get their own animated series one day? And do you think if they kept Superman and Lois in the Arrowverse, do you think we would have gotten one less crossover? I think she sent this last time, Jessica, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Stuart was here though. But I did answer this last week. Would you like to see a Miles Morales or Spider-Gwen get their own animated series one day? I said Spider-Gwen. We already got Miles Morales in animated. And then had they kept Superman and Lois in the Arrowverse, do you think we would have gotten one last crossover team up event in the final season? I think for me, I said no, just for budgetary reasons. But if it wasn't the final season, maybe. Mm-hmm. But how would you answer both of those?
Oh yeah, I would agree with both. In terms of like if I had to choose between one or the other, between Gwen and Miles, at this moment, definitely Gwen, because Miles already has the movie franchise going on for him. So let's give Gwen the animated series. But then, yeah, as to the Superman and Lois thing, I think that we would have definitely had a crossover during season like 2. I think if it was meant to be part of the Arrowverse, or season 3 even, I feel like there were definitely some opportunities. But I think that season 4, even if it was part of the Arrowverse, the only kind of crossover I could see happening would have been Melissa Benoist at the very end during that last shot. There's been so many like fan photo shots where people have edited Melissa Benoist in that final frame where you get all the superheroes together. So I could see that. But at the same time, I also understand that Melissa Benoist is very, very busy at the moment on Broadway and also with her new production company. So even then, that would have been really hard to be able to pull off. So I don't think we would have had any crossover in season 4.
I get you. All right. And that will do it for all of our live viewer questions. Remember, guys, we post a live viewer question post every Saturday afternoon or evening. Feel free to submit them over anytime, and then we'll talk about them towards the end of our show each and every week. So thank you guys so much for your continued support and your fantastic questions each and every time. Marcelino did say, when it comes to Spawn, I think they just want to see a Spawn do rated R stuff. They just want a dumb action film like Fast and the Furious. You don't watch those for great characters or storytelling. I would agree to a certain extent, but I think Spawn is a great character. And I think his main character in Simmons has a really compelling story to tell. And that is a character I would like to see, especially in a world where, you know, we talk about original Black characters, you know, being superheroes and stuff. Spawn is one of those. you know. And I think his character arc and his story definitely matters enough to tell a compelling one. Um, and Fast and I wouldn't necessarily liken Fast and the Furious to Spawn. Again, if they want to dumb down rated R Spawn movie, you got one already. And because you got that one, they never made another one after that. So if that's the quality that people want, that's fine. But understand that there are ramifications for that. You ruin the character and you ruin potential for any level of sequel. And you could say, well, Fast and the Furious has got 8. Yeah, but they didn't really jump the shark for quite some time. And I think they were able to, after Tokyo Drift, at least they were able to reinvent themselves a little bit. And then eventually jump the shark big time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there are two different franchises there.
I feel like with the Fast and Furious franchise, it was a franchise that tried to figure itself out, and it took them until Fast 5 to finally have a consistent tone, because like the first 4 movies all feel like completely different franchises, basically. Just with how much they kind of shift in tone, and like even the style of like kind of racing that they do. Hence one of them being called Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody's comments and thoughts throughout here and your great discussion topics. Thank you guys so much for participating. We always always love talking with you guys each and every week. We do have plans on returning next week as well. That's going to be Sunday, February 9th, hopefully around 11 o'clock or in the afternoon sometime, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted. But we do plan on being here for you guys. As far as reviews go, I'm going to try and see if I can check out this Goes User episode 1. Maybe drop an episode 0 for you guys sometime this week. And then later on this week, we've got episodes 3, 4, and 5 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I'll probably be reviewing those and dropping it for you sometime before Friday to give myself some time to check out all of these episodes, maybe a little bit sooner. But yeah, and then maybe some movie reviews as we are headed towards the Oscars as well. So look forward to some movie reviews throughout the week as well. I might try and check out Wolfman tonight finally.
Ooh, let me know how that is.
Yeah, I might check out Wolfman tonight. I also want to try and do a review for the movie Conclave. That's an Oscar-nominated film. I just checked that out on Peacock. If you guys are looking to check out some Oscar-nominated films before the Oscars on March 2nd, Conclave on Peacock. Check that out. I might drop a review for that later on this week as well. But that will do it for us. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And if you want to find us on social media anywhere, all the way down here below at A+ Opinions, very active over on social media. Check us out, especially over on our Facebook page. That's where we drop all of our news throughout the week. Behind the scenes featurettes, posters, trailers, reels, clips from our show, and news throughout the week to certainly keep you guys posted. And then we pull segments from that Facebook page and discuss them here with you guys. We're also on TikTok at Hero Report and BlueSky at HeroReport.bsky.social. But other than that, guys, we'll certainly see you later on next week and throughout the week. But until next Sunday, do us a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.